I don't think, is my mic on? There it is. There it is. Okay. All right, well, welcome Farmington Hills to our council meeting of January 8th, 2024. The start of the meeting, I want to say go blue, and call this session to order. We begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to ask former council member, now state representative Samantha Steckloff, to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Representative. And now a roll call, please.
Council members Aldred.
Here.
Bolaware. Here. Bridges.
Here.
Bruce.
Here.
Dwyer.
Here.
Knoll. Here. And Mayor Rich.
Here. All right, and I'm seeking approval of the regular session meeting agenda, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular session agenda as presented.
Thank you. Have a motion. Is there support? Support by Aldred and Dwyer. And all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Item 2, administration of the oath of office to our Mayor Pro Tem, Michael Bridges. Well, tonight is a special night, not just because of a football game, but, and by the way, please silence your phones so we won't know when there's a score happening. I was told I was not allowed to threaten having the police escort you out if you were to have a score announced, but you know. Okay. Anyway, it's a special night tonight because we get to recognize our outgoing electeds, and that's such an important thing in our community because these are people who gave tirelessly of their time and energy for just so many years. And so I am going to take mayor's privilege and read the recognition of our former mayor, Vicki Barnett. So, to Vicki Barnett, in recognition of exemplary service to the citizens of Farmington Hills. Whereas, Vicki Barnett has represented the people of Farmington Hills with honor and distinction for nearly 30 years and is known as an effective, well-informed, honest leader who helped make the city of Farmington Hills, Oakland County, and the state of Michigan better places to live, work, and do business. And whereas Vicki Barnett was first elected to the Farmington Hills City Council in 1995, where her strong vision, heartfelt advocacy, and financial acumen served the city well during her tenure as a council member, 4 terms as mayor, 3 terms as a state representative, and during her service with the Michigan Municipal League on the board of directors and as president. And whereas Vicki Barnett won decisive victories in each of her elections and served the people as a tireless advocate for strengthening the economy, creating jobs, and supporting families, causing her to be named as one of Metro Detroit's most influential women by Crain's Detroit Business and chosen as Legislator of the Year by the Police Officer Association of Michigan during her time in Lansing. And whereas, from the beginning of her distinguished political career and throughout her many years devoted to public service, Vicki Barnett has worked diligently to improve the quality of life for all those around her and has had a major impact on the people in Farmington Hills and throughout the state of Michigan. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Teresa Rich, Mayor of the City of Farmington Hills, on behalf of City Council, do hereby honor and thank our friend Vicki Barnett for her commitment and service to the people of our city, and encourage everyone to respect and recognize the work of this highly dedicated individual. And I'm going to come down and deliver it to you myself.
I'm so honored by your words, I really am. It's been a pleasure to serve the city of Farmington Hills, the residents, the business owners, the people who work here on a daily basis or drive through or use our restaurants and businesses. When I first ran for city council, I was always amazed that this large city, and we are the second largest city in Oakland County, and during my tenure early in the 2000s, we were the largest city in Oakland County. We never built a tribute to ourselves because we value our residents. We don't want them to walk through miles of parking lot to get their business done. So we have a very modest public campus, very low buildings, and we are a city that hides our residential neighborhoods with surrounding trees, parks, waterways, and just a beautiful landscape throughout. It's been a pleasure to serve all those years. I remember serving with Chief Dwyer, who's now a council member, and we still are a city of small neighborhoods where people respect each other and really are very kind for the most part. And you don't see that very often. So I hope I had a little bit to do with some of that. And again, I want to thank you all very much for teaching me what I needed to learn, for helping me, for listening to me, for letting me ask you questions along the way. And to all the residents and business owners in Farmington Hills, it's been a pleasure to work with all of you. Thank you so much.
And we have proclamations from our state representatives as well, so we'll do those after we do the ones from the city. Thank you. Okay, next is a proclamation recognizing Mary Newlin for her service to the citizens of Farmington Hills and will be read by Councilmember Jackie Boulware.
The proclamation for Mary Newlin in recognition of exemplary service to the citizens of Farmington Hills, January 2024. Whereas Mary Newlin has served the city of Farmington Hills and its residents with honor and distinction, and was regarded by her colleagues as a compassionate, outspoken, and common sense leader during her times as a member of the City Council from 2019 to 2023, and as Mayor Pro Tem in 2022. And whereas Mary Newlin has resided in the city of Farmington Hills for more than 30 years, and as a longtime resident, knows that the key to a strong community is ensuring that every resident has a voice. And whereas Mary Newlin leveraged firsthand medical expertise gained during her extensive career as a registered nurse with a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing as council liaison to the Commission on Community Health, which is dedicated to supporting and encouraging an environment where residents have access to quality health services and wellness programs. And whereas Mary Newlin, a mother of 3 Farmington Public School graduates, showed unwavering commitment to every family in the city of Farmington Hills as council liaison to the Commission on Children, Youth, and Families, which promotes an environment where children and families are happy, healthy, educated, safe, and encouraged to reach their full potential. And whereas Mary Newlin was a forward-thinking council member who not only worked on behalf of current Farmington Hills residents, but to make the city and its services better for future generations who will call this city home. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Teresa Rich, Mayor of the City of Farmington Hills, on behalf of City Council, do hereby honor and thank Mary Newlin for her loyal service to the people of our city, and encourages everyone to respect and recognize her contributions to ensure that the City of Farmington Hills is a place where everyone is welcome. In addition to that, Mary Newlin and I, we sat on the National League of Cities Women in Municipal Government. I'm also presenting you tonight the pin that was given to you for you and for your service on that committee.
I'm humbled by what was said about me. Didn't seem to be, I did that much, but again, I have to say, my thing with campaign was always going door to door. I can't tell you how big everyone's hearts who live here in the city is. So keep on loving, keep on being kind, and keep on being us, Farmington Hills. Thank you.
We also have a proclamation recognizing Dr. Ken Massie for service to the citizens of Farmington Hills. It will be read by Dr. Randy Bruce.
Thank you. Whereas Dr. Kenneth Massie has served the city of Farmington Hills and its residents with integrity for 2 decades, including 4 terms as a member of City Council, 2 terms as mayor from 2015 to 2019, and as mayor pro tem in 2006, 2010, and 2015. And whereas during his career in politics, Ken Massie has been involved in the Michigan Municipal League and the National League of Cities Public Safety Steering Committee, while remaining committed to his immediate community as vice president of his homeowners association and as a member of the Council of Homeowners Associations. And whereas Ken Massie's insight and influence provided valuable contributions to the boards and commissions which he served as council liaison, including the Retirement Board of Trustees, the Emergency Preparedness Commission, of which he is past chair, and the Economic Development Corporation, as part of which he was instrumental in the establishment of the Hawk Innovation Center, and Hatchery, a business incubator located inside the city's award-winning recreation center, the Hawk. And whereas Ken Massie's dedication to the city and its residents go far beyond his service on City Council, as evidenced by his role in founding CARES of Farmington Hills in 2017, a nonprofit that provides services to individuals and families in Farmington Hills and 7 surrounding communities in Oakland and Wayne County, including a food pantry that supports more than 550 families monthly, and in establishing Farmington Safe, a nonprofit task force focused on facilitating conversations and providing resources around suicide prevention. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Teresa Rich, Mayor of the City of Farmington Hills, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby honor and thank Dr. Kenneth Massie for his tireless service to the people of our city, and encourage everyone to respect and recognize the contributions Ken has made to making the City of Farmington Hills even better. And I believe Ms. Valerie Knoll will be accepting on behalf of Dr. Massie, who could not be here tonight.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So I will make sure that I get this to Dr. Massie. I did speak to him before this meeting, and he wanted to be sure that he thanked the residents of Farmington Hills for their many years of support. He has truly enjoyed serving this community. It's been an honor for him. He looks forward to continuing his involvement in CARES, in SAFE, the Masons, so many of the activities. Some of them, just a few of them were in this proclamation tonight. Believe me, Ken is involved in so much in this community. I always was amazed. I don't know how he had time for everything he did, but he will continue to serve this community. And I'm sure we will see him here shortly updating us on one of the nonprofits that he's involved in what they're doing. So, but I will be sure that I drop this off at his house and get this to him. Thank you.
And I'd like to bring forward our state representatives, Samantha Steckloff and Jason Hoskins, for proclamations from the state.
Thank you, everyone. It's so nice to be with you all this evening. I'm Representative Samantha Steckloff and a proud council member, former council member here in Farmington Hills. And today is truly a sad but hopeful and beautiful day. I first want to start, well, I'll let Jason introduce himself.
Sure. It's very lovely to be with you all tonight. I'm State Representative Jason Hoskins, serving the 18th District, which is, for Farmington Hills' sake, I am the southern half of Farmington Hills, everything between 8 and 11 Mile. Very lovely to be with you. And I'll turn it back over to Sam.
For those of you who may not know us, the legislature went through redistricting, and so there's now 5 legislators representing Farmington and Farmington Hills. So Representative Kelly Breen couldn't be with us tonight. Senator Rosemary Bayer unfortunately had another event she needed to be at, as well as Senator Mary Kavanaugh. So very loved within this community. Both Representative Hoskins and I come from local government, so we understand how important the role is of each and every one of you. The challenges the last few years you've all faced are something that I am so blessed and honored to be a resident of Farmington Hills, because you were able to take such incredible care of all of us. I love this city. I've lived here in this city my entire life. And one of the reasons I love this city is because at a very young age, I was able to see the behind the scenes involvement. My mother, Vicki Barnett, who was the mayor here for I think 8 years now, as well as city council back in 1995, as well as state representative, has truly graced me with the honor and respect that come along with this job. I want to tell a few stories about each of our people. And this one involves you, Councilmember Dwyer. So when I first started dating back in high school, I was 14 years old. And a gentleman apparently came to my door in a car and came to my front door, and my mother unfortunately answered that door, which was probably the worst thing that could ever happen to a 14-year-old high school girl. And she first said, "I'm not ready for this. You're gonna go home, get on your bicycle, put a helmet on, and come back." The gentleman came back, which I was always confused because I never understood why he came on a bicycle when I knew he'd drive, which may have been why I went out with him. And anyway, she proceeded to make sure that she told this young man how she knew every cop in town, including our police chief, and went on to say all of your credibility. So that was my first story of my dating experience here in Farmington Hills as having a mother on city council. Mary Ellen Newlin, I have known for so long. You can't go anywhere in this city without seeing her. We first became involved and connected through the Miss America organization and her work in the nonprofit world, making sure that young people are involved not only in community service, but making sure that they're leaving this world a better place. And she has truly brought that dedication to the city of Farmington Hills, and it was an absolute honor serving with you. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Dr. Ken Massie. So many people would ask me, because they knew I worked at Wayne State with him, they'd say, "Sam, come on, does he really go to work? Because he is everywhere, everywhere." And if you haven't seen Ken Massie at an event, I don't know where you've been, but I can assure you I would run into him in the parking lot all the time at Wayne State University, and I will never understand how he was able to provide not only a commitment to his full-time job, but here in the city where his true love really resided. I had such an honor working with him on the incubator. We were able to bring in almost $1 million for the Hawk, and I think that's an incredible feat that would not have been able to be done without his leadership, and I will miss him greatly. And so, I don't know if you have anything to say, you're just here along.
I cannot possibly top those stories.
You don't have a mother story that, threatened to get a shotgun out on her first date. So we have special tributes and proclamations from the state. Dr. Massey's will be mailed to him. So I first want to bring up Vicki Barnett, our former mayor, my mama. And for those of you who don't know, we actually served on city council together for 1 year. And all of you know what it was like in those study sessions where she had no idea what to call me. Mayor Barnett, yes, I have a question. Sweetie, honey bunch, Steckloff. Thanks, Mom. And so here on behalf of the state of Michigan, we thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. The young gentleman's name was Pat Cochran.
You really just said that?
I
Okay.
really
Thank God
did.
it's cable access.
Thank you guys so much.
Mary Newlin. On behalf of the state of Michigan. Paying it forward. Thank you all.
And now down to other business, starting with correspondence. Any correspondence any council members would like to share? Seeing none, we are going on to the consent agenda, which are items 9 through 15. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine, administrative, or non-controversial by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the items may be removed from the consent agenda for consideration. They will be read by our Mayor Pro Tem Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 9, recommended approval of executing the memorandum of understanding and mutual non-disclosure agreement with Mitsubishi Electric Automotive America Incorporated, CMR 12402. Item 10, recommended approval of a purchase of one John Deere TX Turf Gator with all-terrain tires, electric lift, and one John Deere TX Deluxe Cargo Gator with turf tires from Deere and Company in the total amount of $19,724.93. This is CMR 12403. Item 11, recommend approval of scheduling the regular city council meeting of February 26th, rescheduling the regular city council meeting of February 26, 2024 to February 5th, 2024. Item 12, recommend approval of a resolution for acceptance of the 2023 Transportation Asset Management Plan, CMR 12404. Item 13, recommend approval of City Council study session meeting minutes, December 11, 2023. Item 14, recommended approval of City Council regular session meeting minutes of December 11, 2023. Item 15, recommended approval of City Council special meeting minutes of December 21st, 2023.
Okay, do we have a motion? Dr. Bruce?
Yes, I would move the approval of consent agenda items 9 through 14.
Okay, we have the items 9 through 14. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Member Boulware. Is there any discussion? No, there is no discussion. All those in favor, it's a roll call. So, Carly?
Council members Knoll,
Yes.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Bridges,
Yes.
Bolaware,
Yes.
Aldred,
Yes.
and Mayor Rich.
Yes. Okay, and item 15, is there a motion? Yes, Ms. Knoll.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the city council special meeting minutes of December 21, 2003, as read by the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilmember Boulware. And this is also a roll call vote.
Council members Bridges,
Abstain.
Bruce,
Yes.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Aldred,
Yes.
Bolaware,
Yes.
and Mayor Rich.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. That then takes us to public comment and questions. This is limited to 5 minutes for any item that is not on the council agenda. I'm looking, do we have any blue cards for people who wish to speak during public comment on an item not on the agenda? Okay, then please queue up anyone who would like to speak. So this is not on the PUD or on the Parks and Rec plan, correct?
Yeah, my name's Stephen Lovelock. I'm from Running Stream. I'm from 14 and Orchard.
Sorry, I'm sorry, could we start with, what is your name, please, sir?
Stephen Lovelock.
Thank you. And you may begin.
I'm from 14 and Orchard. Yeah, I mean, I don't know nobody in this room. Well, I mean, we in Farmington Hills, we have FX. A lot of times they came and did arrive, that they need to hire more people. I mean, Smart needs to hire more people for the afternoon and evening. Oh yeah, when will the Myers meeting be? Yeah, I mean, I don't have nobody set me up for the next 2 weeks, for the next meeting.
So the way public comment works is this is your opportunity to say what you would like to us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know plenty about 12 Mile, 405, and 405 and 12 Mile and 15 Mile. I mean, I use a lot of these buses. I mean, I have bus passes. Yeah, I mean, my older brother set me up with Uber today. Call him after the meeting's over with. When will the meeting be over with? I mean, he's from Florida. I mean, my older brother David. I mean, I seen you guys on TV. Well, I don't know if they have anybody set me up for the next meeting. I mean, I don't know nobody in this room. I mean, I don't.
So, city manager, could we perhaps have Ms. Mondora chat with him a little bit about the transportation issue?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Always, sir.
Ms. Mondora will meet you in the hallway. Thank you. Is there anyone else with public comment or questions for something not on the agenda? Okay. Oh. So,
That's on the agenda.
That's on the.
So that's on the agenda. She wants to speak on number 8.
okay, then
we
when
get
it's
there.
number 8, we'll get there.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes. Okay, thank you. Hello, representatives.
Hello, we're back.
Here you are.
We are here to provide a year in review of some of the incredible legislation we were able to work on this past year. We will be doing this more often, so we'll try and get through this a little quickly. I do know we have a big football game. I will not tell you the updated score, but there is one. So we'll do this really quickly. I know you've got a heavy agenda, but we'll definitely be back. And then, of course, whenever you have your study session for the beginning of the year, we'll be there to make sure that we take notes to get all of your things in.
All right, well, very quickly, again, State Representative Jason Hoskins, congrats to all the newly elected council members. I'm looking forward to working with you as I have with the council and the mayor previously, as well as the city administration. And part of the reason why we want to come and talk about this, because we've been doing so many great things throughout the year, we want to make sure we highlighted some of those things. And first thing I want to actually talk about is the budget that we were able to pass. It was one of these things that was one of the most substantial, one of the most progressive budgets that we were able to, that we've ever passed here in the state. And really a lot of wins for the city of Farmington and Farmington Hills, which I represent. I represent the city of Farmington, and of course, collectively, our Farmington Hills delegation. Now, we all want to make sure we're fighting hard for the city. And so we were able to get a lot of great wins. For example, we got money for a new fire engine, money for emergency response center, and as well as a number of organizations were able to get support from the state. As we were talking about CARES earlier, we were able to get $500,000 for CARES, $2 million for the Holocaust Museum. So a lot of wins that we are hoping to, that we were happy to get and fight for in the budget, but also hoping to continue to get some more wins as we are currently actually starting this Friday. We are starting the budget process for this year. And so we're hoping to get your input going forward on some of the things that you may need for the city, because we are, again, here to advocate and fight for you. Some of the other great things that we worked on, we want to make sure that we had a people-focused agenda as we were going forward in the legislature, and we're doing things that were uplifting our community and uplifting our residents. A lot of things like repealing the senior pension tax, expanding the earned income tax credits. Those are things that are going to help so many people in so many different ways. In our budget, we put in free breakfast and lunch for students. Something that is transformational for a family. A lot of these things help. The earned income tax credit, for example, is going to raise about 700,000 kids in Michigan out of poverty. So these are things that are something that we have been advocating for years, and we're able to finally get them through. I'm going to turn it over so we can, Sam can talk about some of the other things that we've been working on.
Yeah, so thank you. I serve on our budget process. I serve on all appropriations. I chair higher education and community colleges. Coming from Wayne State University, it allows me a unique perspective on some of the things that we're able to do. One of the biggest transformations we're able to finally accomplish in the state of Michigan is called the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. It's the first grant this century that will allow the middle class to go to school for free. This is a huge accomplishment. Also improving Reconnect. Anyone over the age of 21 will now be able to finalize and finish their community college certificate program or a degree-seeking program at the cost of the state. These are a lot of things that we've been working with the state for a very long time and our local universities and community colleges. Capital outlay was a huge project this year, and we were able to put in almost $500 million into upgrading projects throughout every of our universities and community colleges. So if you haven't filled out your FAFSA yet, make sure you fill it out. I promise you, you're probably going to see a lot more money that you're awarded now than you have in the past. We're working on improving that scholarship to make sure it covers transportation, childcare, as well as your living expenses. It still has to require into the cost of attendance. These are some of the big transformative things that are really going to affect the residents of Farmington and Farmington Hills. And I keep saying Farmington Hills because, as you can see, there are 5 of us that represent both communities, so it kind of just rolls off the tongue. The free breakfast and lunch for students. This is one of the things that we're trying to make permanent. So make sure you keep a lookout on for the budget this year, making that permanent. The State of the State address is the 24th this year, so we'll hear a lot more from the governor's priorities, and she'll be unveiling her budget very soon. This Friday is called the CREC, which is the Consensus Revenue program that they have, where it'll provide us with more in-depth information on how much money we have available this year for specific grants, programs, and things like that. With the 2022 election brought substantial changes to many things in the state of Michigan. Proposition 1, transparency. It also extended kind of term limits. So now those in the House and the Senate can serve all 12 years in one or the other chambers, as opposed to being term limited out, which allows for a lot more camaraderie in the House. It allows for relationships to truly be formed and built. Many of us have very good relationships, especially across the aisle. It is so important. And it's very difficult when every 2 years they get rotated out. So this is something that's really going to help the state of Michigan and sustain it for a long time. With that transparency, though, it forced elected officials now to provide your financial information. So for the first time ever, you are going to be able to see how your representatives obtain their funding, their money, where it comes from, and if there's any conflict of interest that they will be voting on. We have seen in the past that there are some questionable things that have been going on, so this will definitely help with that. This is only the beginning, and we're only going to extend and make that even bigger and better. So stay tuned this year. Proposition 2, do you want to work on that one? That's your election one.
Sure. You know, we have done a lot here in the state, really starting in 2018 and again in 2022, to make sure that voting access, voting is accessible and easy for everyone. And so there were a lot of things that we put in place or with Proposition 2 that we started implementing in the legislature. Things like 9 days of consecutive early voting, making sure that drop boxes are in certain places, making sure that 16 and 17-year-olds can pre-register to vote, and when they turn 18, they'll be registered to vote. There's literally a long list of things that we can go through that we had to implement this year with the. And I take my hat off to a number of our colleagues, including State Senator Jeremy Moss, who chairs the Senate and Ethics and Elections Committee, as well as Representative Penelope Cerniglu, who is out in Lansing, and many of the clerks at all levels who help make elections easier here in the state, really making us a leader in the country in how we do elections here. See, is there anything else we're going to talk about?
So, we done?
I mean, we can be done.
Yeah.
I think everyone wants us to be done, but we got a lot more. We'll be back, okay?
Thank you.
Or whatever the next meeting is, we'll be back.
Yes,
Got
wait,
lots of
wait.
Slides.
I have one question for.
One question.
For, I want to call you Samantha, but Representative Steckla.
Sam.
You mentioned the Michigan Achievement Scholarship Program, which is available for those seeking certification programs from community colleges or degrees. How can our residents 21 and older access those programs? What do they need to do? Is there any information out there for them?
Yeah, what I can do is I can send some information to all of you to make sure that that word gets out. One of the biggest things we actually put into the budget, I hate that we had to put it in there, but we kind of do, is information on how to get the information out. So if you're over the age of 21, Michigan Reconnect, you can log on. It's over at the Leo department. And the biggest thing that you will need to have done, though, is a FAFSA. And the FAFSA became available January 1st. And I'll get you more information so we can put it all out there, maybe send it out. I got to figure out how to send it out to the residents.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Big program.
Appreciate your update. Look forward to seeing you throughout the year.
And go blue.
Okay. All right. So just a reminder, if anyone does have a comment for something that is on the agenda, we will require a blue card for that. That goes to the clerk. And so.
When you're ready,
So. Oh,
or when
okay.
you're ready.
All right, so that's fine. So,
Is this
PG,
public comments?
this is your opportunity to speak.
Is this number 8 or public comments?
We are still in public comment.
Okay. I'm hoping that the state reps stick around for just a second to hear me say that I think you need to do a little bit better than just getting the free lunches for the children, which is absolutely important. It took, or so far it's been about 6, almost 7 years, and we're still trying to get African-American history taught year-round in the schools. So since we have done that with other ethnicities to get Armenian history and some of the other histories, I'm hoping that you work a little bit more diligent to get African-American history taught year-round in the schools. You know, I just sat through the study session, and there was a company there, Winborn, talking about things that the Farmington Hills Police can do. I'm just a civilian. I'm a trained mediator, so I'm a great listener, and I ask a lot of questions. And as a taxpayer who has been a big public safety advocate in the 2 cities where I own homes for many, many years, I was almost insulted. And I was almost insulted because I expected more questions as opposed to just listening to what I'm calling a lecture. What I heard with my ears was this company saying that Farmington Hills is not policing in the best manner. Now, no entity and none of us are perfect. We all stand some room for improvement. to be our better selves. I did not like the fact that someone could come from Florida to say what we're not doing right and to disparage Clemens. My question would have been, if you allow public comments in that study, was, we've got people coming from Florida. Who's the governor there? How do they police there? It was insulting. And I'm going to encourage all of you to read that information. I would like to get a copy of it and try to ask some questions. Are there things that all police departments can do better? Yes. But to sit here and say, and in my mind disparage my chief to say we're not doing this right and that right and Clemens is not right, is he trying to sell us something? Is he trying to get a contract with the city? Because to just offer something would have been to have Clemens here and ask Clemens questions at the time that he was talking about this. You know, you can say we're going by the data, but if you don't tell the data analysts what you want them to gather and how you want it processed, it makes a difference.
1 minute.
It makes a difference. And I just wanted to just say to the people that if you support public safety, you can come and sign up for the Citizens Academy with the police department. And on January 20th, the fire department is having their charity ball. I purchased 4 tickets. I would encourage you to come to that charity ball, purchase those tickets to support our fire department as well. Support public safety. A community is only as strong as its public safety and the relationship that you have with them and the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we do not clap after comment, but thank you. That's all right. That's all right. So next up, we're going to go to item 6. It's a public hearing and consideration of adoption of the Farmington Hills 2024 through 2028 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. I'm sorry, I missed. No problem. I got ahead of myself. Sorry about that, Ellen. First, we need council member comments and announcements. Mr. Aldrin? No? Mr. Dwyer?
Nothing.
Ms. Bolivar?
Nothing.
No? Nope. Nope. Okay. Then nope also.
Okay, go city manager.
City managers.
Thank you. Very quickly, those of you that are keeping an eye on our city know that we have a high-speed broadband system that's being installed in the city on a daily basis. Build out is hopefully in the next 2 years. And in anticipation of that, Sci-Fi, which is the company that's actually installing the cable, the fiber network, will have representatives at the Farmington Community Library on January 17th from 10 a.m. to noon to share information about the system network being constructed citywide. The residents may also visit the city's website at fhgov.com and click on the Farmington Area Fiber City icon, and that's at the bottom of the homepage. Just a reminder, city offices will be closed on Monday, January 15th in observance of the MLK holiday. In addition, the Farmington Community Library will also, be hosting a number of events over the weekend celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King's life. Please visit their website at farmlib, farmlib.org for additional information. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Now, item 6, public hearing on the Parks and Rec Master Plan.
Good evening, I'm Ellen Schnackle, Director of Special Services here in Farmington Hills. The City of Farmington Hills Department of Special Services has undertaken the process to prepare the 5-year Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The plan is a roadmap for parks, facilities, programs, and activities, decisions to be made in the next 5 years, as well as projected future needs. If council will recall, we entered into the contract agreement with LAP Creative to consult with us on this plan. I'd like to introduce Bob Ford from LAP to have a short presentation about our process and about the plan, and then happy to answer any questions you may have after. Bob?
Thank you, Ellen. I appreciate being here tonight. Really excited to have worked on the Farmington Hills 5-year plan. And I just want to give some credence to your staff. They have been very accommodating, very helpful with us in any needs that we were asked for during the process of this planning exercise. So why do we update the plan? Number one, The MDNR facilitates a lot of funding for Parks and Recreation, and they require that we have a plan on file in order for us to be eligible for grants. We also identify and evaluate new and potential partnerships within the community as we go through the planning process, and we also create an action plan that can be assigned to an annual budget and be tracked. What's included? These are the components that make up a 5-year recreation plan. And we do a lot of work in preparation to go before the public and get their input and their ideas on what we're doing right and what we might be able to do better. The plan development process starts with talking with the community. Then we form a draft. And after that, it goes before the public for a 30-day review, which is just concluded. And then we take the plan, submit it to the DNR, they review it, and finally, if approved, we're able to fill out application forms for grants. The plan itself is due February 1. The different types of applications that you can put out there for public projects, April 1. The results of the community is a snapshot. It's just a sampling. From the 25th of August to November 8th, we were able to get online surveys, and about over 1,000 people responded. And then October 18th, 23, we had a number or a participation meeting and got a lot of information from community members. The survey responses, Farmington Hills really did well in terms of people favoring their Parks Department. You get an idea where people reside, also how they support parks and statements that reflect their views. You can see the percentages here of households that have responded. Overwhelmingly, they support the parks. And then overwhelmingly, they're also in support of the facilities and the city-run services. What is the condition of the existing park system? On an average of greater than 78% of the residents rate good or great. The lowest rating facility was at Costock Activity Center with nearly 9% poor, 31% adequate. So that was one of our findings. How do you rate the condition of existing parks and amenities? The average are greater than 75%, good to great, and the lowest seemed to indicate that Old Town Park, the dog park, were a couple, and 33% rating them poor to adequate. What are the priorities for improvement? This is very common throughout Michigan. We're seeing a lot of walking and hiking trails being supported throughout the state, and people just love them, can't get enough. The Costock Activity Center was also one that rated in the top 5 for improvement. Biking paths, nature center, and playgrounds. What could be added? When asked, there's many programs not currently offered at Farmington. And what would you like to see? More senior activities, more activities for teens, more activities for the disabled individuals, particularly those who are neurological or intellectually disabled. And I might add that we did reach out to the Disability Network. We partnered with them during our survey operations, and they were able to penetrate and get some of these surveys to the inbound and those that do have disabilities. Additional tennis courts and also additional trails. We had public input sessions, and we were able to extract a lot of ideas from those folks. We sat down at tables, talked to them one-on-one, and the people did come out and were able to express themselves rather clearly. The goals and objectives: accessibility, facilities, connectivity, environmental awareness and preservation, better communication, and community relationships and partnerships. The action plan is a capital improvement plan that the Parks Department is working on and presenting as part of this plan. It helps to prioritize projects that reinforce the goals and objectives of this plan. Some of the examples included in the action plan in the next 5 years are adaptive playgrounds, splash pad at Heritage Park, resurfacing of cart paths at the golf club, and baseball dugouts at Founders Park. There's just a few. If the plan is approved, the plan will be referred to the DNR, and they will be able to review it and the accompanying grant proposals. The action plan helps with Parks and Recreation decision-making in these 4 categories: programming, land acquisition, capital or minor improvements, and building ties with the community. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, we're happy to take those.
Okay, any questions? Yes, Mr. Dwyer.
Yes, I have a quick question on the survey. How many participated in the survey and how were they selected?
Over 1,000 participated in the online survey. It was promoted via lawn signs, lots of social media assistance from our communications department. That's how the survey got out. It was also, we had hard copies available at the Costic Center, at the Hawk, and some other locations. So we received 1,000 responses.
Thank you.
Mayor Barnett?
Yes, Ms. Bowler.
I'd like to follow up on that from Chief Dwyer here on the survey. For me, it was a very small response group. What's the average response rate for surveys such as the one that we just completed back in August?
I know that it was more than the last survey we conducted. So the 5-year master plan is obviously done every 5 years. It more responded to this one than previously. And we did purposely ask some similar questions. So we have an understanding of how things may have improved or changed with that same question, but we also added some additional ones. But as far as, does that make it accurate, or you might be able to answer that better?
Average response rate is anywhere between 1% and 7%. You are over the 1%, you fall within the category, but it is on the lower side. So it was really just a sampling. But what we have found is once you get above 500 responses from different areas of the community, and we did track it, and the geographical distribution was pretty equal throughout the entire geographical area of the city. Once you get about 500 responses, the trends tend to bear out pretty strong from that point on. So although the confidence level in this is average, I would say that it does give a very good idea of where you need to look further and invest dollars in researching, just such as the Costic Center, for example. It was very well pointed out by the people that attended and participated in the survey. And also in our sessions that we had with folks, we were able to probe a little bit deeper, understand where people were coming from.
But the comments on the Costic Center was not in the report, correct, that we just shared? I didn't see the data on that in this.
It's in the final report. I don't think it was in, not all of them in the draft. Were they included in the draft? Because there's literally hundreds. So there were several questions that required you to pick an actual response. There's others that were open-ended, and the open-ended questions, several of them were hundreds and hundreds of responses, so you may not have dug into that. But yeah, we can absolutely send it to you. We can send it tomorrow.
Thank you. Dr. Bruce.
Thank you. I'm surprised at the low rating for the dog park. What were some of the concerns with the dog park in particular?
I think there's interest now that we actually own it to make some different improvements there. Some of the comments had to do with shade, how we're entering and exiting the dog park, as well as the addition of a possible bathtub outside. So when you exit the park with your dog, to add that. We have a great network at the dog park that's really well connected. I think we've created a really awesome community there. So there's a lot of conversation, and I know when the survey came out, we're seeing some pockets where there's a lot of responses to the survey from Nature Center, from the dog park, and some other specific groups. So I think that's part of why that showed that way. But we had a great group from the dog park out actually in the actual public section of it. Really great conversation, and I think it assisted us. We can make some adjustments there immediately.
Okay, thanks.
And the dog park people all know the names of the dogs, but not the names of the owners.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr.
Oh, it's
Aldred?
Rover's mom, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought the master plan was well done. I appreciated it. I think they were going through each of the parks and giving suggestions of what could be done. I thought that was really nicely done. It was interesting to see the desire for more walking paths and trails. I think that resonates well with the community. And also I'd like to see the fact that there was thought about how we could increase parks in the city. How could we acquire more land for parks within the city? I think that's something that's, again, I hear that a lot from residents. So I think, looking to see, obviously that takes some funding and looking to see what state or grants might be available. So again, I appreciate the fact that was in the plan as well.
Thank you. I noticed that as well, as far as like the northern sections of town, there were some comments about additional parkland in those spaces. And then I think my own observations, post-COVID, where more and more people were getting out and using our trails, using our parks. We have record numbers of use in the parks. I think that's part of why there's more interest in that, as well as interconnectivity between the parks, between the facilities, and that's kind of that larger conversation of a non-motorized master plan.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Bridges?
Yes, just a quick comment. Thank you for the report. Appreciate it. It gives us a guide as to what we should be doing regarding the parks. And do you expect some recommendations to come to council regards to some of these recommendations in our budget process as we go forward?
Most definitely. I think that, there's an opportunity for us, and you may have discussed it at your goal session on Saturday, to take a look at that study that was conducted by the Sports Facilities Group, get together as a council, as city staff, as residents and users of our facilities to really determine what we're calling that facilities forward. What's that path forward to ensure that we're maintaining our facilities, improving them where we can without any skip in service? I think that's where the goal's at, but we're gonna have to work together to make it happen and figure out how to fund it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other council comments before I open the public hearing? Okay, the public hearing is now open. If anyone wishes to speak, we need a blue card for the public hearing on Parks and Rec. This is the Parks and Rec public.
It's a public hearing, they don't.
I'm sorry, public hearing, I do not. I beg your pardon. Still learning. Yep, got him. Thank you. And please say your name. Do we need address for this?
Street name, but not.
Street name, but not the house number, please. Thank you.
I'm Dan Fantor. I live on Doheny, and I am chair of the Farmington Area Commission on Aging. As you probably know, we're a select all-volunteer group appointed by the Farmington and Farmington Hills City Councils to promote the well-being and dignity of older adults in our community through advocacy and education. I'm the current chair, and my fellow commissioner Carl Christoph is here. And the Farmington Area Commission on Aging is made up of clinicians, educators, attorneys, veterans, those with experience in senior housing, aging services, social work, dietary and food service, and as support group facilitators. You may know that in 2022, the commission created a presentation on financial elder abuse, on the financial exploitation of elders, and we continue to welcome opportunities to present that presentation. Concerning the Adults 50 and Better program, the commission has been listening to those 50 and better who use the Caustic Center, and we wish to advocate on their behalf as the city evaluates the future of the Caustic Center. The commission recommends a senior-friendly facility with programming to meet the needs and desired activities of this population while preserving all current programs and services. The commission agrees with the 5-year plan recommendation that a study be conducted to determine the best course is for the future of the Caustic Activity Center, the facility, the site, and the programming. And to best advocate for those 50 and better who will use the Caustic Center or its replacement, the commission respectfully requests a seat at the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fantor.
Good evening. My name is Pat Hansen. I live on Cloverdale, which is in Farmington and not Farmington Hills, but I use the Caustic Center continuously. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Caustic Center. I went through the 5-year plan, and your population of 50 plus is 39% of Farmington Hills, which is the highest percentage of the 3 groups that you had surveyed. And the recommendations for the Caustic Center was for another study session. We just had a study session not too long ago, and now you're asking for another study session for the Caustic Center. So was the first study session not adequate, or was it not particularly for the Caustic Center itself? I'm just curious about that. And then the Hawk, according to the budget of your plan, you're looking for $16 million for the Hawk. And $7 million of that is to go to the 3rd floor of the Hawk. And do what? I mean, if this is a 5-year plan, there should be some substance behind your figures of $7 million is quite a bit of money. And then for the Caustic Center, you have budgeted, or is budgeted $20 million, which improvements of $9 million. So the other $11 million, what is that for? I mean, it's just, when I look at a master plan, I'm previously a politician myself in another community, a plan should have a plan and not, we're going to look into it. I don't see any plan for the Caustic Center, and that is probably your most valuable building in this community. Your 50-plus people are your most valuable people.
1 minute.
You're using it for, am I done?
1 minute.
You're using it for blood drives, you use it for Meals on Wheels, which you give out over 100 meals every day out to this community. You have all your senior programs in there. I belong to Alzheimer's Support Group. We just had a meeting there tonight. You're having the early election. My gosh, you're closing the Caustic Center for 11 days, our gym and the lunch area, for 11 days for early voting. Where will you move that to? I mean, there's so much that happens at this community that is just unbelievable, and to take that away from your seniors would just be a travesty. Thank you.
Thank you. And regarding that next study session, we have sent back additional questions. So there is more that we are doing follow-up on. So we're continuing the conversation, so thank you for that. Okay, anyone else for this public hearing? Seeing no one coming to the podium, I will call the public hearing closed. Council, what's your pleasure?
Move for the adoption.
Is there a motion? Dr. Bruce?
I would move the adoption of the Farmington Hills 2024-2028 Parks and Recreation Master Plan, CMR 12401.
Thank you. Motion, is there support? Support by Mr. Bridges. And this is a regular vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Passes. All right. Item 7. Public hearing and consideration to permit the partial redevelopment of the Hunters Square Shopping Center, PUD Plan 2, 2023, including Site Plan 67-9-2023. Good evening.
Good evening. Let's see if I can find the presentation on here. If not, we will proceed. Oh, wait, here we go. Nope, it's on. All right. All right, we'll figure that out. Good evening, Charmaine Kettler-Schmaltz, the Director of Planning and Community Development. I'm here to do an introduction for our public hearing for PUD 2, 2023, which is the proposal for a partial redevelopment of the Hunters Square Shopping Center. I wanted to let you know that the order of the presentations tonight will include, first up, the planning consultant will give a review of the application and plan. That would be through Giffords Webster. Second, we'll hear from the applicant with a brief background of the project, and then open it up for a public hearing for those present before it goes back to the City Council for deliberation and questions. I will be here for the duration of the item, and I do have our city planner, Eric Perdonic, that will be available for questions as well. I'll just take one last peek and see if I can locate our items here. Don't see it, we'll move on. Sorry. No, that's theirs. Okay. All right.
We really should have it on the screen.
It's not that one.
That says tonight's meeting presentation.
That's theirs for later. Oh, do you know what's there? No. Well, that's Rose.
No, that's from the last
Applicants.
one.
That's the applicants.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Jill Boehm. I'm a partner at Giffords Webster. We are the city's planning consultants. And while we're working on getting that presentation updated and displayed for you, I can get started if that's acceptable.
Please.
Okay. As the city council knows, but maybe for the benefit of folks that are here with us this evening, this is a planned unit development request and a project. And a planned unit development tool is something that we are able to use in our zoning ordinance for development that may not quite fit in with our traditional zoning standards. But this tool gives us the ability to work with a developer on a project that meets certain goals of the city and be able to waive some of the requirements of the zoning ordinance to allow for, in our ideal world, a project that is much better than one that could be developed traditionally. So this project is for the Hunter Square Shopping Center. And this shopping center is at the southwest corner of 14 Mile and Orchard Lake Road. It has been built and in existence for about 40 years, since late 70s, early 1980. And the project includes a revamp of several larger tenant units, the addition of some outlots along Orchard Lake Road, and some accompanying changes to the parking lot. This project will remain completely commercial without any other types of residential or any other types of uses included in that. This evening, we won't be focusing overly so on the uses, except that we will touch on the uses that the applicant is proposing that wouldn't be permitted in the underlying B2 zoning district. So this site is zoned B2, community business, and just for some context, I can read you, I just printed out that page from our zoning ordinance, just to give you a flavor of what that district allows. So the B2 community business districts are designed to cater to the needs of a larger consumer population than is served by the B1 districts, and so are generally characterized by an integrated or planned cluster of establishments served by a common parking area and generating large volumes of vehicular and pedestrian traffic. Sounds pretty much like what we have seen developed on this site and in sites similar across the street and in the area. The site is almost 30 acres. It's 22.8 acres. There are no wetlands and no real notable natural features except for some of the trees that are on the site, and we have a tree survey that's associated with that. The property itself is zoned B2, as I said, community business. Properties across the street, across Orchard Lake Road, are zoned kind of a combination. We've got some B2 properties as well as some B3, which is the next more intense commercial district. To the south and west, we have RC2, multiple family residential, and all those are built out and have been built out for a number of years. The site is accessed from 5 driveways onto Orchard Lake Road, with an additional access point to 14 Mile, and there is an easement over a neighboring property. So again, this is a planned unit development, and in the process for this, there's a number of steps. So the first step is that a project would go to the Planning Commission for a criteria review of qualifications. And that was done in August of this year, and the Planning Commission approved the preliminary findings that the PUD qualified for the planned unit development option. That didn't mean it was approved. It just gave them some feedback, the applicant, and allowed the process to move forward. Following that, there was a public hearing, and the Planning Commission made a recommendation for this to move on to council, and that is where we are today. Should you have additional comments on this project, we'll be working with the applicant on that. The next step, once if the PUD is approved, should it be approved, the next step is to create a legal document, and that would be the contract between the city and the developer to make sure that the things that you have articulated as a city, should there be things you're willing to waive from the zoning ordinance, that is written down, and then anything else that the property or the applicant is going to be providing beyond what's required by the ordinance, that will be written into the agreement as well. And so that's what that will all cover. So the letter that we have that you have has several qualifications identified in terms of this project. And I don't know that I'm going to read through each one of those because we are wanting to move things along quickly, but I do want to highlight a couple of the items. One, and I always like to, you probably have heard me say it before, and you'll hear me say it again, that the plan unit development option is a really great tool to use for that flexibility. But we also caution it's not to be used just to get around certain requirements of the zoning ordinance. And so in this case, this is a commercial development. It's been a commercial development. And so what might we be getting from this plan unit development in exchange for that? Some of the things noted by the applicant are some additional landscaping, some additional pedestrian connectivity and amenities, and some of the architectural details. The PUD shall not be used in situations where the same land use objectives can be accomplished through the regular zoning. And in this case, they're going a little bit beyond in terms of, again, the landscaping, then the connectivity. The applicant is seeking a flexible mix of commercial uses, and we'll get back to that in a minute, a little bit of a combination of things that might be included both in the B2 and the B3 zoning districts. The planned unit development option, we should make sure that when we're reviewing this, that we're not adding materially to our service and facility loads beyond those that are normally considered. In this case, the fundamental use, again, isn't really changing that much. The applicant has provided a traffic study, and I know that there will be some additional conversation about that. And then there's a list of some of the criteria that are considered to be more of a community benefit, if you will. And so the applicant has included their letter where they list a number of proposed community benefits, and I'll read those quickly. Public artwork, reduction of paved areas on site, addition of pedestrian pathways, traffic calming measures to increase pedestrian safety, diversity of uses on site, including grocery, restaurants, office, and entertainment, enhancement of existing landscape buffer adjacent to residential to the west, enhancement of landscape buffer along Orchard Lake Road, additional shrubs and perennial landscape enhancements within parking lot, additional outdoor plaza areas with benches, addition of stormwater quality measures, deferred or future covered bus stop if and when SMART reinstates bus line in the area, and a reduction of 424 spaces and a reduction of pavement. There are additional criteria. Those are listed in the letter. I don't know that I need to read many more of those because I do want to get into some of the specifics about this project itself. So again, the Planning Commission did hold their public hearing on November 16th, and then they made a recommendation of approval to you. The project itself, the major changes to this site include the middle, if you will, buildings, the larger buildings, really revamping those completely. There will be a reduction of about 7,000 square feet when all is said and done with the renovations that are proposed. The uses in the shopping center would be consistent with the uses that are permitted in the B2 district, including retail businesses, personal service establishments, fast food or carry-out restaurants, but they also note several proposed uses that are not permitted in the B2 district, including a drive-in restaurant, pharmacy pickup window, sidewalk sales, indoor recreation facilities, and a veterinary hospital or clinic. And so we can talk more about that if you have questions following this. We do note that the lot coverage is 28.5%. The master plan, so we have referenced in the letter the 2009 master plan. As you know, our 2024 master plan is ongoing, but we noted a few things from that area. There have been studies of the Orchard Lake Road and improving this corridor for 20 years. There was a 2002 coordinated Orchard Lake Road corridor study conducted all the way up through Sylvan Lake and all the way down through Farmington Hills that talked a lot about creating a coordinated approach. Through our master plan process, in fact, now we have heard folks reference development to the north in West Bloomfield and suggesting that some of those enhancements that we're seeing be translated and moved further down the corridor as well. We've talked about, in previous plans, mixed-use areas, a vision for the area to be kind of a central business district, including an increased dense intensity of uses and enhanced pedestrian and bicycle accommodations and amenities. And that is still what we're hearing. As the Planning Commission is winding up and wrapping up its master plan, there is a big focus on the redevelopment opportunities, particularly to the west and the north along Orchard Lake Road and Northwestern. Increased walkability, we just were talking about that with your Parks and Recreation master plan. It's exactly what we've been hearing through this whole master plan process as well. And as we think about what makes walkability and walkable communities, we're not just talking about the sidewalks, but we're talking about destinations to which people can walk. And we're talking about improving the aesthetic environment, making it more pleasant and comfortable for people to walk. And so some of those things we would be looking at with respect to this, the improvements that are proposed in this development. Some of the dimensional standards that the applicant would be seeking relief from include the front setback, which is required to be 75 feet, and they're proposing 58.49 feet. The rear setback of 75 feet, which is because it's adjacent to residential, is 69.34 feet. And a side setback to the south, which would also be 75 feet because of the proximity to the residential, and it's very close, but 74.88 feet. Pedestrian access is one of the improvements that the applicant has proposed, and the plans show, do we have the plans if I click through this?
Yeah, it should be one slide down.
That one? This one's probably better. It's color. The color one is better. So you can see in the color rendering the outlines of the white sidewalk areas, but also note how they are wrapped or buffered at least with a strip of green that helps again with some of the pedestrian improvement in terms of improving the environment and making it a more pleasant experience. You'll see marked crossings between the major buildings and the parking areas. With the outlot developments, you will see connections from the outlot buildings, and those would be all the ones, the 4 buildings that you'll see along Orchard Lake Road to Orchard Lake Road. Sidewalks are already included in the right-of-way along Orchard Lake Road and 14 Mile. The next section is about the fast food and carryout restaurants. We note that that is a permitted use as long as it's including at least one other principal use in the structure. And that is the case, but there is one of the buildings, the one the farthest north, that's intended for a drive-in restaurant, a drive-through restaurant. And that we've included the standards for that, so you could also see how that those standards would apply to the drive-through facility and the 2 areas in which they are deficient, and I'll highlight those again at the end. In terms of parking, the proposed parking meets the standards for commercial shopping center use. There is a setback concern about the front yard with respect to the drive-through site, and that's noted. In terms of loading, given the volume of square footage, there would be a 20 loading spaces required, with 15 being proposed, and so that's another area of deficiency. A note about lighting: there is some new lighting proposed, and some that will be retrofitted and some that won't be touched at all. We do note that the proposed lighting exceeds the uniformity ratio, and so that should be adjusted. And also the color temperature. That was something that the Planning Commission discussed but didn't get into any kind of a condition or recommendation. We do recommend the color temperatures below 3,500 Kelvin, and they're warmer and less jarring to people and the environment, so we would just make that note. Pedestrian access and connectivity is generally improved with the plan. We do note dumpster enclosures. There are 2 dumpsters that would be located in the front yard area, and those are screened, and you can see them on the plans, and the one that's closest to Orchard Lake Road has the screening around it on its eastern face. So there's a number of ordinance standards that the applicant is asking for waivers for. Those would be the permitted uses not permitted in the B2 district, the drive-in restaurant, the pharmacy pickup window, sidewalk sales, indoor recreation facilities in the veterinary hospital or clinic. The relief for the front yard setback, the rear yard setback, the south setback, the parking setback, the drive-in standard for the setback, as well as the stacking or queuing line for that, the dumpster enclosure in the front yard, relief from the loading space requirements, and then two related to signs. One is to allow a reuse or relocation of currently non-conforming signs, and a relief to allow more signs than permitted from 2 to 5 on one of the larger buildings. That does not include a waiver or request for more sign area, just a greater number of signs. So I guess we would just note that. So that is, despite the fact that I wanted to be short, it was a little bit longer, but I think hopefully answered some of your questions ahead. But I'm happy to answer any more questions that you've got.
Questions by council? Mr. Dwyer?
Hi. Good evening. If you can, I'd like to know if you're aware of it, the business known as Marvelous Marvin's, how are the negotiations going with the developers?
That would be a great question to ask the applicant.
Who?
The applicant, when it's their turn to speak, because that I don't know. I can't answer that.
Can I ask you?
Well, he'll be,
I believe the applicant has information on that, so they'll be doing their process.
Okay, thank you.
we'll have the applicant up in just a bit. Thank you. Anyone else?
I have lots of questions, but I would like to hear the whole presentation
Okay,
first.
I think that was what the
That makes
plan
more
is.
sense.
So let's do that. And so next up is our applicant. Good evening.
Good evening. Dave Ortner, representing the owner. So just as a brief kind of background, as mentioned, this is a redevelopment of about 185,000 square feet at Hunter Square. This is not a densification. There's actually a slight reduction in GLA, but this is an opportunity to solidify the center into the future, and assuming, and the property aligned with the master plan as a regional retail center on a primary corridor. As we discussed at the planning, it's critical that we're proactive here with over 200,000 square feet in vacancies. As you know, Marshall's recently underwent the expense of moving across the street. So we need to take action before this site becomes a potential blight with the amount of vacancy that we have here. And as the owner, that's why we're pursuing this redevelopment. What else I want to tell you here? We've designed the site to maximize the appeal to potential retailers and activate the site with increased pedestrian access, common space for public use and placemaking. We've tried to be thoughtful in our design in terms of how we're approaching this, and as I said, really solidifying the center to move forward into the future. We have an opportunity with a potential great tenant lineup where we can really create that at the center.
Thank you. And so just to verify process, Charmaine, the next thing we do is the hearing, or do we do council questions first? Council, what's your pleasure? Do you want to go to the hearing first, or do you want to hear?
Is that the end of the owner's presentation, or is the architect coming up for anything?
I don't believe so. We're all here to answer your
That's it,
questions. We have
okay.
all of our consultants in place.
I have lots of questions.
Okay, well then why don't we have our questions, then we'll have the hearing, and then we'll come back for questions. Okay, so do you want to go ahead and start, Val?
Well, no, actually, Mr. Dwyer had a question. So
Thank you. I think they have the right person now.
Yes, first.
So my question was the business known as Marvelous Marvin's.
Yes.
I understand that you're in negotiations with that business.
So we have had some conversations with them. We've actually reached out a number of times. They've let us know that they're potentially interested in relocating into a larger space. They have had conversations with other owners for a relocation. And then we are also pursuing continued conversations with them. We haven't had an opportunity to connect with them. We've reached out on multiple times to try and follow up on some of their comments. And my understanding is the Christia Brockway with the Economic Development Department has also reached out to them. and has not had the chance to get a response yet, but we will continue to pursue them and identify
Are you
locations.
fairly
for them to stay at the
optimistic
center.
that you may be able to negotiate something that would satisfy the business?
I'm hopeful. I certainly am, and we are, as I said, we're very open. They've been, at Hunter Square for a long time, and they've been a good tenant. We've been a good partner with them. But with their lease naturally expiring at the end of the year, and whether they are looking to relocate or they need a larger space, we want to be proactive with our redevelopment and, continue to work with them. But certainly, have to continue to move forward with our plan for the site.
Thank you.
Yeah. No?
Sure, I'll start. Okay, so currently this is zone B2, and the request is for a change of zone. Now, if this site were to remain B2, the majority of this development, we're not talking use here, not use, just simply the actual reconfiguration of your buildings. Here's where my question is. The way I look at it is, or what I'm seeing is that the request being made is a front setback change from 58.49 to 75. So that would be for these front buildings, which are new. And that, isn't a huge difference, 17 feet. So it looks like the difference is 17 feet, which means we get a little extra green space. That's it. If indeed this were not to be a PUD, but you were to go ahead through traditional zoning, you would not actually need to even come before us for approval. You could build these buildings, just we wouldn't get as much green space because you'd have to set them back a little further. And then the other difference is in the rear, the 69.34 to 75, this is even less, so you're talking maybe 6 feet, minor in the grand scheme of things, 6 feet. So where I'm struggling here is trying to understand the benefit that the city is getting by changing this from a B2 to a PUD. Because with the B2, you can build this. The only difference is that those setbacks, which really is quite minor. Now the use changes, you can't put in the drive-through. Instead, you'd have to do a full sit-down restaurant, no drive-through. Personally, I think that's a better use than a drive-through. We already have a McDonald's there. I'd hate to see another fast food restaurant there. So to me, that's not a huge benefit, getting a drive-through. You're requesting more signage. You're on the E building, building E, you're requesting 5 signs instead of 2. To me, that's not a benefit. You're requesting a drive-through pharmacy. To me, that's not a benefit. We have numerous pharmacies in the area. I'm not opposed to drive-throughs, especially they serve the population. I mean, hey, I go through drive-through pharmacies and drive-through restaurants. I admit it. I'm not anti-drive-through, but I want to be cautious of putting too much on one piece of property with drive-throughs, because drive-throughs create a stacking of cars and they create a lot more congestion. And while you did mention that there's less square footage in this overall development, when I look at this, you're gaining retail space right on Orchard Lake. Where you're actually losing it, you're also gaining the parking, which is now where the Bed Bath & Beyond is. It's a U-shape. All that parking lot now becomes building. So where you're losing is actually in the back. So there's a cutout now in the back of the building. That's where, when you say the reduction of 7,000, that's where a lot of it is coming from. So again, I don't really see that as also a huge benefit to the city. It's in the back of the building. And sidewalk sales, hey, I'm all for sidewalk sales. And, if the city needs to take a look at our sidewalk sale policy, I think that's something we could do. I also don't want a permanent sidewalk sale 365 days a year, cluttering up the sidewalks and making the facility look junky. So, I'm not sure that's a huge benefit there. So, I see, other than a little bit of more grass in the front on Orchard Lake, I'm just really struggling here with the benefit, because that is one of the requirements of the PUD. And I am not anti you redeveloping your building, because as I just mentioned, you can pretty much do almost everything here, other than the uses, without even having to coming to us and just keeping it with the existing zoning. So that's my struggle here. So if you can help me understand better where really the benefit is, other than these 17 feet
Yeah, of course.
of grass up in the front.
Absolutely. So I think, you know, I don't want to confuse sort of the variance requests or the changes with what the benefits are, right? These are in terms of the design, so that we can create what I think is the best and the most attractive and the most usable center. I think at the end of the day, the benefit here is without question that we're taking a center that is truly struggling, that has an intense amount of vacancy, with potential for even further vacancy down the road if something's not done, bringing in a really strong mix of tenants that's going to serve the community in a terrific way, and is going to, again, is going to solidify this center as the regional retail, you know, on a major corridor through Farmington Hills that you guys want to see. And the reason that we're looking for some of this flexibility, and a lot of this is coming from, you know, our pre-planning with the town and with the professionals of the town in terms of, you know, what are the things that they want to see when we talk about, you know, pushing the setbacks. The reason that we did that is because we want to activate those common areas between the small shop. We want to connect it to the sidewalk so that you create active sidewalks. That you know, there's public art, there's going to be public seating, so that people can actually use that space, as opposed to pushing it back 20 feet and having a row of parking between the sidewalk on Orchard Lake and the buildings. This is a more attractive and a more usable way to experience the center. But I think collectively what we're trying to do is provide added flexibility so that we're not hamstrung by some of the limitations in B2, so that we can attract really the best possible mix of tenants, so that Hunter Square can continue to be a thriving retail center going forward.
Okay, I just want to point out one other thing. I should have mentioned that. And one of the other things that I would like to see is more high-quality materials, and especially when it is in terms of the grocery store. And I will say I'm a little disappointed. When we were first approached with this, we had heard that this was going to be owned by Myers, but it wasn't a Myers as in, you know, with the big Myers signage, that it was going to be more like the corner market, which is at Woodward and 13. I researched that, I looked online, the photos of it are gorgeous. It really looks like a nice neighborhood, small-scale market. I'm also familiar with Fresh Time in downtown Farmington, which I'm a huge fan of. I shop there as well. It's a big benefit. I know the residents of Farmington really wanted to bring Fresh Time in. They wanted a walkable market. It has that kind of farmers market feel to it. It's got just simply one sign, Fresh Time, that's all it is. It doesn't have 5 signs. And it really has that neighborhood, that high quality feel to it. And that is what I thought was going to be presented. I will say I was very disappointed that that's not what's being proposed. What's being proposed is 5 signs. Basically, I looked, it's very similar to the Myers, you know, the signage that's at the 12 and Telegraph Myers. It's obviously much smaller than that one. It's not gonna be that size. I'm not saying it is. It's gonna be smaller, but it's still 5 signs, pharmacy and I think fresh food and Meijer, and I don't remember all the signs, but that was, and maybe I misunderstood, but I don't think I'm the only one that really thought what was being proposed was something more high quality. And to me, again, for a PUD, I need to see high quality. Because that's one of what I feel is a community benefit, is providing some high quality materials and that, again, something that people want to go to, something people want to gather. It's that kind of farmer's market type of feel. And again, this is not a downtown. It's never going to be a downtown. That's what Farmington is, downtown Farmington. But I still think that for a PUD, we could do a little better job of making it that type of space.
Okay, thank you. Randy?
Yeah, thank you. What is the current square foot of the number of buildings that are there currently?
I believe it's 330,000 square feet.
Okay. And about 20,000 square feet of that is empty.
About 200,000 square feet of that is empty.
200,000 square feet is empty.
Yes.
So almost 2/3 of the buildings are
A
empty.
little less than 2/3, but yeah.
Okay. And what is the square footage of a typical Meijer? Just out of curiosity, do you know?
Well, so, I don't want to speak for Meijer. I think they have a couple of different concepts. I know they have obviously their more super center concept, and then they have the one that you're referring to, which I think is closer to probably a 20 or 25,000 square foot concept. So this is, I want to say somewhat of a hybrid. It's a grocery store concept. But, I think it kind of slides between the two.
What is the square footage of the Meijer here?
This proposed Meijer is 70,000 square feet.
70,000.
70, I can't, very small in here, but I think it's 70,000, give or take.
Okay. And if you were approved, when would construction start, and when do you think you would be completed with all of the construction?
So I think the construction time period is, if memory serves, it's about, from once we can start demolition, it's about 6 months to deliver a pad to Meijer, and then probably another 12 months for them to build out their store. Ideally, we'd probably like the entire lineup to open roughly around the same time, so say give or take about 18 months of construction. And as far as when we want to start, that's obviously contingent upon approvals and PUD approval.
Now, if you weren't approved for a PUD tonight, and you had to go back to just the standard zoning, how would that affect the overall plan here? What would be different? What would you have to do then?
I think it would limit the offerings in terms of the other tenants that we can attract here. Just in terms of trying to be holistic and thoughtful about, what's the kind of the best possible mix to bring in here. I think that's probably the biggest issue is the uses. Obviously, as we spoke about, some of the setbacks can be addressed through a variance, but our concern is really, having the ability to create a center that has a bit more flexibility so that we're not limited in terms of the different tenancy that we can bring into the center. And that includes, that includes entertainment uses, that includes, different dining options. So there's a couple of limitations under B2 that I think, don't serve the highest and best use of the property.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Bridges.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I think that my view is that the relief that you're seeking is somewhat minimum. It is, I think it's other than uses that you're asking, flexible uses, the relief regarding setbacks is minimum in regards to that. And you are asking for additional uses there. Part of the PUD process, I understand, is basically allow for more flexibility. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
PUD process allows for more flexibility.
Correct.
Exactly. And you are, I guess, planning to spend about $75 million in this particular project?
I mean, without putting, it's in that range of probably $50 to $70 million. It's hard to say now.
I'm sorry, that center is outdated somewhat, isn't it? It's basically outdated, and from the standpoint of, sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't mean to speak over it, but yes, I mean, obviously, a significant amount of the property is obsolete. If we could release the space as is to a similar caliber of tenant, I think obviously just from a pure business standpoint, that'd be fantastic. But I think the Marshalls moving across the street is a real clear example that is really not usable space in today's market.
And you've been reached out to Marvelous Marv. They're is a community. They are a community asset in Farmington Hills with a lot of history, and we're limited from a standpoint as a council to actually dictate or tell you what tenants can be there in regards to that. That's your relationship with the tenant, in my viewpoint. Correct?
Yeah, and like I said, we have pursued conversations with them. We are, we'd love to continue to work with Marvelous Marvins. We're just trying to be thoughtful on the center holistically. But yes.
But the council, I mean, we all know that the council has no influence on the tenants there. That's basically based on your relationship with the tenants there. I understand that. And you've already conducted traffic studies there, correct?
Correct.
Exactly. And you continue to want to reach out to Marvelous Marv to see, make sure that you can work with them in regards to their potential being a tenant there. I think that based on what your request is in regards to the relief you're seeking is somewhat minimal, and the benefits to the community were outlined also in regards to, I know the planning consultant basically outlined a number of benefits that you're going to provide in this project in regards to pedestrian walkways and benches and other type of things to improve walkability there. And, and you look at that point based on also the relief you're seeking, I think that it's a worthy project of consideration. So I look forward to additional comments from the public in regards to what they have to say about it. But thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Eldred, I saw your hand.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I would agree. I think the primary benefit here you're bringing is to redevelop an area that's in need of redevelopment. That's the primary benefit. I see the list of items that you have listed in terms of community benefits. I think they're all good. In practice, though, looking at the actual design, they're not as much as I would like to see in terms of areas of walkways, areas of green space or sitting areas and things like this. So you'd list some really great stuff. In the actual design, it's fairly minimal in reality. So again, I would be encouraging to see how do we actually maximize that, and how do we, the fact that we have got a smaller offset to the road there, it does mean that it's kind of actually a fairly small area that is actually where you've got some development of something that's got benefit. And I would also agree with Council Member Knoll around the drive-through. In fact, I was a little concerned. The drive-through is routed to go right up against Orchard Lake Road, the road. It's very close to the road itself, and I read the description of there being a fence between it to shield the oncoming headlights from the traffic. And then in the renderings, it's a very thin railing by the look of it. So again, that would be my concern as well. Not only is the benefit not great, but even the way you've laid it out there, I would have some concerns that it's not an ideal layout. But I do have a concern about encouraging drive-throughs in that area, to be honest.
Oh, can we take this one out? All right, hold on.
Is it?
I think they're looking to
The
show
rendering?
an example of
Yeah,
something.
okay.
Is that what we're waiting on?
Yeah, we have some renderings that we were just going to display to kind of highlight some of the out parcels and how they're.
That was it, thank you.
Okay, that was all? Okay, thank you. Ms. Bolower?
Yes. Well, they're looking for that. I guess at this point, my view aligns very closely with Councilman Knowles. Of course, that's an aging shopping center there that definitely needs some updating. But as I look across the street on the West Bloomfield side, and to see what they've done with their shopping center, there are sit-down restaurants there, 2 of them. There's no fast food drive-through or fast food restaurants. And one of the things that I know that for PUD, it has to be some public benefit in order for us to consider such a project. I know that there's minor changes, but one of the things that the public here in Farmington Hills has been requesting are more sit-down restaurants. Because all we have now, what I've heard tonight is that it's going to be a drive-through restaurant and then some fast food places. We have a lot of those in the Farmington Hills already. If you go look across the street, that's fast food, but there's no place to sit down at a restaurant and have a good family meal with perhaps either a glass of wine or a good iced tea. Recently, we have a new sit-down restaurant you've probably heard the Daily Jam, because we don't have that many, and they're doing so well in that spot because there is just a lack of dining establishments. And in this particular proposal, yeah, there will be food, but it's mainly fast food. There's no place you could sit. And I know our mayor, Vicki Barnett, talked about this proposal, quite a bit, and saying that with the new construction that's going on Northwestern, we may have 2 large apartment complexes, and that which will bring in a number of young individuals to our city, which we love to experience that. They're looking for places they could sit, have a hamburger and a beer, whether there's, spaces for food trucks rally, a place to sit outdoors, have a drink. And with this proposal, I see none of that in it. It's just the same old, same old. And I would love to see in that area restaurants that you could sit down and have a meal, whether they're for breakfast or, for after 9 o'clock, you can sit down, because we don't have enough of those types of establishments in our city. And I'd like to see more of that worked within the project itself.
So if I may, I just want to, clarify that there's those 4 out parcel buildings that are along Orchard Lake. Only one of them is proposed as a drive-through. And again, part of the purpose here is to create some of that added flexibility so that you can attract a different mix of tenants. But those other 3 out parcels are not in any way spoken for at this point. They're each between, I think, 5 and 6,500 square feet. Those are flexible buildings that can be, those could be soft goods, that could be a sit-down restaurant. They're not limited in terms of what those could be, how those could be activated. And the intent of creating some of the common space between them that'll provide outdoor seating, that'll provide public art, that'll provide connectivity to the sidewalk to try and activate those spaces, is to make them desirable and usable for different kinds of uses. Among those could certainly be a sit-down restaurant, and our leasing teams will certainly, are pursuing those kind of tenants to see, if there's an interest and there's an opportunity to bring them to the center. So I don't want to, give the impression that because we're looking for the opportunity to add a drive-through, that somehow limits some of the other uses that can be at the center.
And then when I think of the drive-through, I think of the drive-through restaurant. There's the Meyer on Telegraph and 12 Mile, and they have a drive-through restaurant there. And it's pandemonium. I mean, it's so difficult to navigate that shopping strip because of all the traffic and how the drive-through is working with existing store locations that, for me, drive-throughs are problematic in large shopping areas like that off a major thoroughfare. But I think there's going to be a traffic study that's going to be conducted.
That we have done a traffic study, and I know there were some comments, and they're responding to some of the comments with regard to the traffic study. But all of that has been, or certainly will be addressed in terms of the follow-up on the traffic study. The building that proposes the drive-through is set off from the other 3. It's been designed with ample stacking, in terms of how we think that it will and should operate in order to maintain flow throughout the parking field. And then again, also still gives us opportunity to pursue the different kind of, sit-down dining establishments that you're talking about that could go in any of those other 3 buildings if there is interest from them as tenants, and certainly be interest from us as a landlord to bring those kind of tenants into the center.
Yeah, I do like the fact that you mentioned proposing public art. I like that, but I do have a problem with the outdoor, with the drive-through restaurant that's proposed for that particular location.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? All right, Dr. Bruce, you had one more question?
Yeah, for our planning staff or consultants. And it's been a while since I reviewed the planning commission meeting minutes, but I don't remember, because they approved this unanimously, did they address public benefit specifically in their review?
They did. They spoke to the ideas of particularly the pedestrian and the walkability, and they spoke to outdoor plazas, the pedestrian linkages, the public art, requesting the bus stop if that works out again in the future. And I think really deferring more of the details of that to council, specific to, are there additional kinds of building materials that you want to see? Is there certain type of a location for the public art that you think is important? Is there a certain amount of outdoor dining space that you think would be worthwhile adding in here? And really making sure that those are conditions that are reflected in the development agreement, should that you get to that point.
Okay, so if this were approved, would it go back to planning for further?
It will go back for site plan review, yes, and that review is essentially to ensure its consistency with the development plan. Oh, it is, this is it? Yeah. Okay, I guess this is the site plan, sorry.
So this would be it?
So this is it.
Okay, and I've got one more question for the proponent. Just out of curiosity, has Meyer already signed a contract with you for occupancy?
It's a contingent lease.
Contingency, based upon the PUD?
I'm sorry?
Based upon the PUD?
Yeah, based upon approvals.
And has the drive-through restaurant also signed so this is just proposed, there's no actual tenants as
This is correct.
Okay. And how much of the percentage of that one back building that Meyer occupies, what is the percentage that Meyer will occupy of all those buildings?
So in terms of the portion, so they're, like I said, they're about 70,000 square feet, and the proposed plan has 4 new buildings that have 70,000 square feet, 2 25,000 square foot buildings, and a 40,000 square foot building.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah. My turn. What will the hours of operation be for the businesses here? Is 24/7 allowed? Is 24/7 expected? Is that what we're looking at?
In terms of open and operating? No.
What are we looking at for hours of operation?
I'd have to go back and ask. I don't know what the exact grocery store hours are.
But what you're telling me is that it will not be a 24/7?
It will not be an open 24/7 grocery store.
Okay, thank you.
To the public, yeah, no.
Okay. Like Ms. Bolaware, I was a little concerned about the restaurant issue. One of the buildings that'll be coming out actually houses one of our very few restaurants where you can get a burger and a beer after 10 o'clock. Yeah, and so it's like, oh, great, now we're down to 2. And I realize that what happens between you and Marvin's is between you and Marvin's. We understand that. We all understand that. But I don't know that I understood your answer to Councilmember Dwyer about the lease and your arrangement with them. I thought I heard you say that they have a lease till the end of the year. Was that the end of the year 23? Because I'm seeing so much in
They have a
social
lease
media.
that expires in January of 2025.
2025?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I have to say I agree with some of our other council members. I had thought what we were going to see when we got a rendering was similar to what's at 13 Mile and Woodward. And I've done a couple of field trips out there and just like, wow, wouldn't that be awesome? Because that was the most god-awful strip mall out there with I think it had a dollar store and an awful bar. Well, some people liked it, but anyway, that was it. And to see what it's become, it's just beautiful. And I thought, gosh, I can't wait to have you in front of us to talk about that and that vibe at the entrance to our city. Because for so many of us, 14 Mile and Orchard Lake, that's one of the entrances to Farmington Hills. And then when we got the rendering, I was horrified, frankly, because it's your basic Meijer grocery store. It's not the upscale destination Farmington Hills we're looking for. in my eyes. I know I'm just one of 7 votes, but in my eyes, it's not there. I see this, rather than being akin to what I was expecting, I'm seeing this much more akin to what's at Telegraph and 12 Mile, but without the non-grocery stuff, right? Just, and that's not what it's counting as 1 vote. That's not what I want. I see conversation around public art, but I don't see it in the rendering. I see no placemaking. I had thought, you know, I'm new back here. 3 of us are newly sitting up here now. I had thought that what we were trying to work toward was something that might one day be a social district. And I don't see that. And I can't get over the line with you based on what's here in front of us. I just can't. It's not the upscale look that I would like to see at the start of our city. And so I would also like to hear from our traffic engineer about the thoughts about what would happen with the drive-through. But it looks like you wanted to jump up and address something.
If I could.
Yeah, please.
Good evening, I'm Mark Drain with Rogvoy Architects. I'm the architect for the project. Can you guys see what's on the screen here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. These are the areas between the outbuildings, and the idea of between the outbuildings being so pushed forward was to eliminate the parking in front. So instead of having 15 foot of green space, you now have 58 feet of green space. So it's a big difference between having 2 rows of parking in a driveway and then storefronts. The idea was what Jill's group would call form-based zoning. These buildings, they're pushed up against the street. They are, let's see if I can't manipulate this here. They're all masonry. They all have glass on all 4 sides. They engage the community within the pedestrian areas, which are the placemaking places. The storefronts are storefronts that face the road. There are canvas awnings, metal awnings. There's walkable areas. And then this one, this is my favorite here, is that we have string lights between the buildings and benches and places for public to gather, places for restaurants to be end caps. The idea for all these buildings, these liner buildings, if you look at the traffic study, is that 50% of those are going to be restaurant. And I always assume that 50% of the end cap would be restaurant, or all of the end caps would be restaurants. So you'd have that engageability at the storefronts and the sides and the outdoor seating in the gathering areas. The drive-through that we've talked about, it looks like a very big building. We only expect that only 2,500 square feet of that 7,000 square foot building will be a drive-through restaurant. And I understand there's that association of the stacking and the ordering, which we've, I think, painstakingly screened with landscaping and screen walls. I know it's there, but it's not a physically built thing. It's cars driving like cars drive on Orchard Lake Road.
So where's the art? Because strings of lights are not.
Well, here, I'm going to. As you approach from the sidewalk from the Orchard Lake sidewalk go between the buildings, we have pods of areas where we can install public art. We'll have lighting, and there are points along the sidewalk where people can engage with that art. They're just not stuck in the corner somewhere. So in this case, you can see it here, and over here.
Couldn't see that on our renderings.
Well, and that's, I don't know if it's technology's fault but when we put a package together, some of these things just don't get put in and they don't print very well.
So please put up the Meyer.
Put up the Meyer. Knew you were going to say that. So just so you know, the 70,000 square foot use, these fresh and local signs here are the same signs that are on the corner store at 13 and Woodward. And I know that because that's my corner local store, because I'm from
You did a great job.
Well, I wasn't the architect for that. I was the architect for the one in down at Jefferson.
That's
in
a nice
Shane.
one, too.
And I don't know if you saw the article about the murals in the Free Press the other day, but that was really interesting. But the idea is that I have metal here for the Meijer, and I have metal for the other storefronts along that area. I mean, these are the bigger boxes, and I think if I can, I don't know if I have one that shows all of it, and I don't. I would liken the shopping center to a shopping center at Big Beaver and Rochester Road. There is a Golfsmith there. There is a Nordstrom's Rack there. There was a trampoline place. There was going to be a grocery store there. Now not. But bigger uses, there's REIs there. There's bigger uses with individual type storefronts along the back. And then there's buildings in front that have the barbecue, the cake place, the pizza place, the nail shop, small boutique retailers. Those are what we call the form-based. So those are what's engaging along the thoroughfare there. And then moreover, in this plan here, what we're able to do is to be able to get pedestrians to this strip of active sidewalk back here, where before you had to walk through a parking lot. You have an opportunity here, if you can see that, and you have an opportunity here to come through. Then we have, of course, sidewalk that's engaging along here. You talked about the sidewalk sales. And again, about our uses. We talked about the drive-through. The drive-through for the Meijer, it's kind of yeah, we have to have it because everybody else has it.
Yeah, on the sidewalk sales, I don't see that dog hunting, but that's.
Okay, that's fine. But the answer for the drive-through, I did 212 Walgreens stores in my career. Each of those Walgreens stores was on 1.75 acres of land. I've got 30 acres here. It's a very small use for such a very large piece of property. And for the drive-through in front, I've done a lot of drive-through restaurants, and McDonald's will take up an acre and a half. I'm using 30 acres of land here for a very small portion of the drive-through use. And again, that one big building right there will have other tenants in it. It won't just be one big, I would want to say, chicken place that has quadruple stacking spaces and waiting areas. I don't think that's the intent here. This plan doesn't fit that 12 and Telegraph fiasco, which I agree. That is a mess.
Thank you.
We don't want that. That's going to kill us.
Yeah, us too.
It's going to kill us. So I just wanted to be a little bit more clear on the graphics you're seeing here and the intent, because the words you're saying, I wasn't hearing what the drawings were reading to me. So I just want to, if you need more, I'd be glad to sit down with, a group of you or whatever, if we need to do that. But I think the idea is that we're trying to do a good job, trying to be thoughtful, trying to be modest.
Thank you. And I would like to hear from our traffic engineer, please. Do you have a question in the meantime while he's coming up?
Real quick.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why we can't get a facade like at 13 and Woodward? Why can they have it and we can't?
Well, you have a lot of that.
Not that.
Be
In the
honest with you.
signage, it says Myers. That doesn't say Myers. It's a corner market. It's a
Okay, I
different
understand.
feel. It's more
I'm not a
of
marketing
scale.
guy, I'm not Myers, so
Yeah.
that's a conversation we can have. But I'm quite certain that all the Myers that I did down on Jefferson corner store says Myers on it.
The 13 one does not say Myers Corner. It doesn't have
13
that
says
big Myers.
Woodward Market by
Woodward
Meyer.
Market.
By Meyer.
By Meyer. It's
Why?
just like
Why?
Tiny little by Meyer.
Just like Fresh Time doesn't have the big Myers. Yep, see? There it is. That's it. Seen it numerous times.
Again, I don't represent Meyer. I don't know what their marketing, their push for, what they're trying to do in the market. But, like I said, the corner store is 45,000 feet. The big stores are 212,000 square feet. This one's 70,000 square feet. It falls somewhere in the middle.
What are the sizes of Fresh Time? Do you know?
I don't, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Mark.
Good evening. I'm the city traffic engineer, Mark Saksuski. So we are in receipt of a traffic impact study for this planned unit development. We have provided comments to the proponent and his traffic engineer, as he indicated. And I spoke with the traffic engineer just yesterday. They don't anticipate any issues in addressing our comments. That study was really a general review of the overall site and land use. There aren't specifics on that drive-through that I'm aware of yet. So lots of times we look at that a little bit closer when we find out if it's a Starbucks or a McDonald's or what it might be. So the stacking was not specifically addressed in that traffic impact statement. We could certainly request that. It appears they have room for a bypass lane and reasonable circulation.
So if they were putting in a Chick-fil-A,
That would probably require an additional traffic impact statement. We'd have to review that and maybe even modifications to the site plan if it were something so extensive.
okay. Questions?
Can you repeat that? Repeat what you just
Yeah,
said.
can,
Well, depending on the use for that drive-through, it could impact I suspect a Chick-fil-A, we see those with triple lanes, so I suspect it could change the site plan possibly. We don't have specifics on that use yet, in my opinion. So a Starbucks and a Chick-fil-A operate very differently. So we could request an evaluation when that site itself comes in for review. We could ask for a stacking study. Some of these fast food or drive-through restaurants have studies specific to their brand.
okay. But as of right now, we don't know what that, because he said that
Not that I'm
they don't
aware
have a
of.
contract
No.
with anybody. I think Dr. Bruce asked that question. Okay. All righty. Okay, we've been here 2 hours and 7 minutes. I propose a 5-minute stretch break, and then we come back and have the public hearing. So we're going to adjourn for about the next 5 to 7 minutes and then return. Thank you.
Five Below.
So we are now going to open the public hearing. Please line up. Yep, and by the way, yes, this is America and everybody can speak. But if your comments are similar to the person ahead of you or a person who went before, it is perfectly okay to say, yeah, I agree with what came before. And you don't have to take the whole 5 minutes. So with that, Ms. PG.
Okay. Do I need to give my information for a public hearing?
I believe just your name.
Okay. My name is Pamela Gerald, but people call me PG, which is basically my initials. You know, in 2014, I had the privilege and the opportunity to meet one of the leading urban planners in the United States, and that was Robert Gibbs with the Gibbs Group. And Robert Gibbs said something that has stuck with me since 2014. And what he basically said was, just because a zoning allows a business, the community and the city don't have to allow it if it would be considered hodgepodge, meaning it doesn't fit with the immediate area. And that just stayed with me. Robert Gibbs was selected to come to the city of Southfield in 2014 when Southfield acquired the Northland property. And I appreciate my other city for the visioning session that they had. So here are a few things that I'm going to just say very quickly. I heard the architect or the developer say, not open 24 hours to the public. I want him to qualify that. If I were the developer, since people in this community are so passionate about Marvelous Marvin, I would have taken that nostalgic business and made it the anchor to a strip mall that really is no different than any other strip mall. I think the businesses that you're planning to put in there, and I mean no disrespect, it's always business and not personal, it's hodgepodge. Look at, you got a jewelry store in there. We got jewelry stores all over the place in the mall. Why would you have a jewelry store in a strip mall when you've got smash and grabs going on and subjecting other businesses to the people that want to do these smash and grabs? You have a lot of theft going on at the grocery store. These are just some things that are on my mind. How can you have it walkable where there's two roundabouts? You know, back in the day when it was an actual intersection, Simcox said that that was one of the most dangerous intersections in the state of Michigan. So is it different now because we have two roundabouts? Was there really a visioning session? Because if it was, these people would not be so upset about you taking away their nostalgia, Marvelous Marvins. Hats off to the two councilwomen that said, we're sick and tired of fast food restaurants and drive-throughs with your hustle and bustle. Give us a nice sit-down eatery like Eddie V's, like Ocean Prime, like Janopolis from back in the day, like Merriweather's from back in the day, like the Bijou from back in the day. And I can keep naming all those very nice restaurants, Golden Mushroom, the Benchmark that I was at because I didn't like to cook at the time. I was young, had it going on, and I liked eating out at fine dining. I'm sick and tired of fast food restaurants. You kept saying holistic. Is it holistic with the W or is it holistic with the H? Because holistic with the H talks about health. And we're talking about people being healthy. There's not a whole lot of healthy in fast food restaurants. So that's something that you might want to consider. Just because the zoning allows it doesn't mean that these stores are a proper fit. I don't like some of the stores that are there. I still think that this is a dangerous intersection. It's not going to be walkable like you think it is. And then these developers or property owners are missing the mark. Several years ago, I found out doing my own little research that in addition to charging the people that rent from you rent, you also charge them 5% of their gross sales. So they were paying rent on top of the gross sale fee that you were charging them. And no developer should ever say anything negative about another property. 12 Mile and Telegraph, when that Meyer was put there, that was the type of development that was trending. So now you think that that's hodgepodge? I think your development is hodgepodge. You need to go back to the table, talk to these people, get them involved, and pick some better stores for a holistic H or holistic WH approach. Thank you.
And I was incorrect. I did need your address, but we'll catch that the next time. Thank you very much. Street name, but not the number, please.
I use my P.O. Box 155, Southfield, Michigan, 48037-0155.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Will Bowen, and I'm Bayshore Drive.
And what street where do you live?
Bayshore Drive.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here on behalf of myself and my coworkers at Marvelous Marvin's, and it's one of the businesses that is at risk for being phased out by this new development. When you hear the name Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum, you can't help but smile, and this was the sole intention of our late founder, Marvin Yagoda. When he made the decision to buy this hole-in-the-wall storefront within Tally Hall, now known as Hunter Square, he attempted to do something that very few people ever have the courage to do, to make something truly larger than life. And I speak for everyone here tonight and the over 50,000 people that signed our petition when I say that he succeeded. After over 40 years of service, we have cultivated a tight-knit yet widespread community of people who are dedicated to not letting that dream die by sharing the history of our museum through the stories and memories while spreading joy to new patrons through our unique contraption, antiques, and atmosphere. After working there myself for many years, I've had the privilege not only to hear these stories firsthand, but to be directly a part of creating new ones. And I have to say, I have yet to find a more rewarding feeling than that. This shared history is what keeps people coming back week after week after week, and I know this because I see the same faces over and over again. Marvin's never gets old. It is truly a place beyond space and time where for a brief moment you can leave all of the troubles and your worries at the door to relive these memories and share them with others. And with the only fee being a cup full of quarters, it's the deal of a lifetime. That is what is at stake here tonight. And unlike many of the other companies within the mall that would most likely benefit from a relocation, Marvin's would truly suffer. The history, the character, and the memories that have been preserved for generations within the cramped walls of our storefront is beyond words. And the decision to destroy this lineage so that a Meyer or a wine liquidator can take its place is a slap in the face for the citizens of Farmington Hills and the people who believe that in the government to protect these institutions from being phased out by big business. We understand that businesses face inevitable change. Some evolve, and sadly some must die. But there is an argument to be made for heritage, the preservation of historical fixtures, not only for the city of Farmington Hills, but for the great state of Michigan. I know firsthand many families who have planned visits from out of state specifically to come see Marvin's who may now never get the chance, and they are looking to us for answers. So please, take these factors into consideration when making your decision, and I hope that I can finally tell the hundreds of people that call in every week asking about our future that we are here to stay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I appreciate the restraint of the audience. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm JB. I'm from out of town. I'm not from Farmington Hills, but I've come here to speak to you guys because I've seen this before.
I'm sorry, JP. What is your full name and what city do you live in?
I will respectfully use my Fourth Amendment right not to do so and address my government bodies that I pay taxes to. You use city taxes, I'm allowed to use my Fourth Amendment right.
I need to get a ruling from my attorney then.
Yes, he has identified himself with initials. The requirement for an address is an optional thing that City Council does like to have, so it understands where people are speaking from, but it is not a mandatory requirement of City Council.
Okay, thank you. Proceed.
Thank you. I wanted to speak on this because I come to Farmington Hills for Marvin's, then I go over to Buffalo Wild Wings, have some dinner, then I go get some froyo. Right there, all in that shopping complex. And what this company is proposing is to remove everything that's there for Meijer. They want you to approve for Meijer. That is the only company they have a tentative contract with for this development. Nothing for that drive-through up front, nothing for the 3 across the front, and nothing for the other 3. Right now, they currently have 7 properties sitting empty on this location. But they have other properties here in Michigan that have 5 locations empty, including West Oaks and Novi. The only property they have in the area that is completely full is Rochester Hills. The only thing they're thinking about is what their investors want, which is increased rent on these properties, 2-3 times what people are paying in them right now. Also, you'll pass this PUD, kick everybody out so they can tear the buildings down, and maybe increase their rent and they'll come back in just for their investors. You don't have to approve this PUD because it doesn't fit Farmington Hills, and it doesn't fit an area I would come back to visit.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Haley Fugate, and I'm from Livonia, and I've been working at Marvin's for about a year. And I just have, I guess, a few things to say. One thing I would like to say is it's like a very good job, and that I don't think that any location could replace it because of the history behind it, and it's like the original Tally Hall, and the band is like related to it, and like just there's a ton of history behind it. And Meijer's too basic for like to replace that. Nothing can replace the vibe and nostalgia that it creates, especially a Meijer, a chain store. And they also want to replace like the main Marvin's area with the alcohol store. And why are we going to replace something that's family friendly and fun with the alcohol store that just, I don't know, increases alcoholism and like bad stuff that we don't need? Because we're trying to make stuff more family friendly and fun, not drunk drivers or whatever. That's just, I don't know, a bad idea in my opinion. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Cronkite. I'm from Allen Park. I just wanted to say, first of all, I like the 5-year plan for the parks. I come here for the nature. It's very nice. Unfortunately, it is winter right now, and my friends and I come to Marvin's every so often, and you know, in the winter, we don't really go to the parks as often. It's kind of dark, it's cold, so we come for Marvin's, and then especially the last time we were like, okay, now what do we do after? There's not much in the area. I agree, it would be nice to have more restaurants. There's not much for entertainment for the youth, especially later into the evening. Our options were bowling, and we couldn't get a lane. From the renderings, I see a lot of really pretty, trendy storefronts that we're never gonna visit. They're gonna be empty. They kind of remind me of like a Metro PCS. Like, they look empty, but there's like a desk and a person and 6 items inside. I hope you guys have seen a lot of comments from the planning meeting. I hope that all those really good comments didn't fall on deaf ears. I agree with a lot of things that people said. I think a Meijer moving in is really risky with having so many others nearby. At some point, one of them is going to close, and if it's not this one, it's one of our neighbors, and that's not nice for any of them. That's going to be an even bigger hole that's going to be harder to fill. I don't disagree with all redevelopment. I know there are some empty spaces there. I do like the idea of having green on sidewalks. I know we'd all love for it to be filled with small businesses, but that's just not really practical in this day and age. But I really want to hope that if this is going to draw in more people, that transportation is going to be supported first. I know a little bit of walking. I heard there was, you know, some traffic studies. Our car is going to be able to get in and out. The buses, if we're really missing a bus stop, that's really not good with 2 grocery stores there.
1 minute.
I don't really like that. You know, it doesn't look terrible, but why do we have to have a Meijer to have something nice? I would like to think that we could accomplish that without having to resort to a Meijer. I'd like more of an amalgamation of different businesses coming together and not just Meijer owning everything.
You have 30 seconds.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up is people have mentioned Livonia and Plymouth had a mire that was proposed, and they were able to shoot it down. And I want to know if that isn't the case here, why not? Why can't we do that too? Also, it's just a side note, for lack of a better word, Meijer isn't like classy to me as other grocery stores. Like the Meijer across the street would be to me, and other Meijers are in the area.
Thank you.
Okay, is that all?
It's your 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I'm Leston Brooks. I'm from Ferndale. I want to thank you guys all for your time this evening. I know it's been a long night, but I just have to say I'm glad that you wanted to know where we were all from, because being from Ferndale, I come from a place with a lot of fun things to do. You know, there's drag queen bingo, there's axe throwing, you know, big bar scene down there. There's a lot of fun stuff to do out there. So why on earth would I come to Farmington Hills? Well, Marvin's exists. That's a good enough reason for me. And you know, a lot of the proposed things that they were looking to add in there, whether it be the Meijer or the strip mall, you know, regardless, fast food places, you know, all of that stuff, I have that by me. Why would I come all the way here? I could just go do that in Ferndale, or I could go do that in Detroit, or any of the proposed items, you know. So I hope that you'll keep that in mind, you know. If you want Farmington Hills to kind of be a place where people want to come and visit, you know, that Marvin's was obviously, you know, a big part of that. And while I understand that you guys can't necessarily interfere with the negotiations between, you know, the applicant and Marvin's, the business themselves, I hope that you will consider that, you know, they'll likely be able to survive as a business. However, a lot of that stuff that they have in there, a lot of that those antique items, a lot of those old arcade machines, a lot of that's pretty fragile stuff. And it's not just as simple as just, hey, let's just put everything in a box and let's, you know, just ship it over there. A lot of that could get damaged or just outright destroyed, you know. So I hope that that is all stuff that you guys will keep in mind when making the decision. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Good evening.
Hello. My name is Connor Japixi. I'm a senior attending the College for Creative Studies, and I currently live in Grosse Pointe Park. Tonight, as it seems more and more certain that the unfortunate truth that Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum will have to relocate outside of the old site of the Tally Hall Mall and current site of Hunter's Square, I want to bring up one important idea, that we are one community and we need to stand together to support Marvin's. Now, the truth of the matter is that what the landlords of Hunter Square are doing is understandable from the perspective that the plaza is long past its prime. It has the potential of becoming a new cultural hotspot in Farmington Hills, but the current plan does not indicate that that is what they are going to create. Additionally, even if the landlord applicant is willing to work with Marvin's to continue to be a tenant, the logistics of moving everything out of the plaza, storing it for however long it takes to redevelop the square, and then moving everything back into the space where we can reasonably presume rent will be drastically increased to offset the large cost of redeveloping the land is indescribably impractical and would lose Marvin's way more money than just simply relocating. So what now? Now I want to give out a rallying call to both the citizens and representatives of Farmington Hills to think about what we can do for Marvin's, its legacy, its cultural significance, and the fond memories of people the world over. What can we all do? Assuming Jeremy has his hands tied, what can we do? Are there landowners who can assist finding a new home, maybe even a bigger space as was mentioned? Are there volunteers or moving crews who can help delicately relocate the decades of history and memory held in the building's walls? Is there some special history and, history designation that Marvin's can receive to help protect them from the future evictions? What can the everyday person do? What can other local business owners do? What can local government agencies do? I think the answer is complicated, but I know one thing is clear. We all need to show, not just with passionate words, with massive petitions, but with actions and agency, we need to show Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum and Jeremy Yagoda that we care. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Good evening.
My name is Jacob Keeler. Me and my fiance over here we live.
Could you get a little closer to the microphone, please?
Apologies.
Thank you.
There we are, yes. My name's Jacob Keeler. Me and my fiance over here live right south of the Hunter's Ridge complex on Orchard Creek. So I would say that we probably have distinctly stand the most to benefit from this sort of redevelopment as it stands. But as for many of the reasons mentioned before us, yeah, we don't really feel that this plan fits that sort of thing. Especially, I'll also mention, I'll distinctly mention, obviously, the addition of a Meijer. It seems very. It doesn't, as mentioned, there are a number of grocery stores that already fulfill that role in the vicinity already, and it seems to me like any of those would one of those is going to die out if we took on that. And again, as mentioned, there's a great deal of logistical challenges keeping Marvin from being able to move anywhere else if this sort of redevelopment were to happen. And let's see, and that's a distinct that's a distinct draw to the area, per se. So, do you want to add on
Thank
more?
you.
Hi, Claire Romanchuk. I also live on Orchard Creek, so directly south, and we actually walk to the plaza, so use it as maybe not intended or as it will be intended. So we're pretty invested in this. So I have kind of two notes. So a degree, the plaza something needs to happen. We've been saying this for years. We're like, wow, it'd be cool if, really anything could be done. However, the way that it seems to be going about is almost not quite worst case scenario, but close. Yeah, to the point, we do not, in my opinion, do not need another grocery store unless we partner with West Bloomfield and we can get one on each four corners. Then I'm open to it. But, realistically, with the Whole Foods and the Aldi, the Meijer just seems redundant. And I do get the idea of wanting that kind of prestige market. I just don't think 14 and Orchard is that place. I think you would end up having, a dearth in a different location, whether that's us or West Bloomfield somewhere. Additionally, through both the planning committee meeting and this meeting, there's a lot of talk about like our hands are tied when it comes to the relationship between tenant and landlord. And to Connor's previous point, I find it uniquely disappointing that we can't see, like there has to be some way forward to protect an institution as widely beloved and cherished as Marvin's. And whether that is a historic designation, there's got to be something we can do instead of just like, well, I guess, well, it sucks. They can't afford it. It's been swell for the past 40 years. But I would like to see some middle ground there if for some reason that, this plaza doesn't work out for them, somehow keeping them around. Like there's got to be something we can do other than like, well, it's too bad, we can't do anything. So anyways, and on that extremely mature note, I will leave it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. All right. Anyone else for the hearing? With that, I pronounce the hearing closed. Council, questions? What's your pleasure? Dr. Bruce.
Just going to make a few comments. I might also make a motion. I'm really torn on the PUD. First off, love Marvelous Marvins. Great thing. I think everybody up here loves Marvelous Marvins. I've been there before. It's terrific. However, whether or not we approve this PUD, I think everybody needs to be clear on the fact that if we don't approve this PUD, they can still develop this piece of property and get 95 to 99% of what they want anyway, and they're going to, move Marvin's out. We can't tell businesses or landowners who they have as tenants in their buildings. I don't want to get our city sued and lose for $20 million or more like what happened in Novi 20 years ago when they had to sell off part of their park system because the court ruled that they had a takings when they developed or prevented development, and it was a really big mess. We don't want that here. So we can't tell businesses who they put in their buildings as tenants. We have nothing to do with that. And whether or not they get the PUD, as I said, they can get pretty much everything they want without the PUD. It just, makes it a little bit, I think, more challenging for them. This site needs to be developed, redeveloped, I should say. When they have 200,000 square feet of empty space, that's just gonna rot and be an attractive nuisance. First things, the building, or the windows get broken, the graffiti turns up there, you get squatters in the building possibly, it's an attractive nuisance. That's what's gonna happen if we don't let this site be developed. The question is whether or not we should do it as a PUD or just under the current zoning. The great thing is about the PUD is we can dictate a lot of requirements in what they want as kind of a bargaining chip to give them that PUD designation, which we have done many, many, many times. And I'm looking through all the notes from the Planning Commission and the consultants, and there were some things that they did ask for that are apparently not included in the PUD that we can put in as requirements if it makes sense to do that, if everybody else approves of that. So I guess what I'd like to do is make a motion and see whether or not it has a second, and then we can discuss it and add more to it, take something out, chuck it all together, and let them develop it as it's zoned, but at least it starts as the discussion point. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the permit the partial redevelopment of Hunter Square Shopping Center, PUD Plan 2, 2023, including Site Plan 67-9-2023, with the following additional requirements. First off, that they provide a covered bus stop. They move the yard dumpster that's in the front yard that I think is going to be unsightly. I think they need to look at someplace else for that yard dumpster. The color temp of the lighting should be decreased to 3,500 Kelvin or below, and a 4-to-1 uniformity ratio as well in the lighting. That is recommended by the planning consultants. Bicycle parking was recommended. I think that's a great idea. More pedestrian markings on the plan. There's no pedestrian access or markings currently across the drive-through lanes. That needs to be added for safety. Additional landscaped areas along Hunter's Lane and Orchard Lake Road at the southeast corner was recommended. And I didn't see that anywhere in the PUD. I think we need to look at better landscaping, especially along Hunter's, or that apartment complex to the west. There's a lot of seniors in that apartment complex. And lighting can bleed over and be very disruptive to sleep cycles and just in general. So I think we need to control that. One of the things the Planning Commission did point out is that there is additional landscaping and open space that they had proposed beyond what is required, which is nice, as also kind of I think them kind of sweetening the pot a little bit. So I think that it's, we're not going to get a perfect development in here. Am I excited about another Meijer going in? No, not really. But again, we can't dictate what goes in there. And Meijer could move out in 5 years, and something else could move in with the same, requirements there that could be something different. Who knows? Meijer's is probably not going to be permanent necessarily. It could be very temporary, but that's why we can't get into necessarily what's there. And, would I rather have the corner signage and everything? Yes, but that's a Meijer determination. That's not what the landlord can really control. So I think that it's a compromise. I'm not thrilled about some of the things here, but I'm not thrilled with having 200,000 square feet of empty buildings that are rotting and old, 40 years plus, that look unsightly and are just going to be a burden on our city. This is going to bring in a lot more tax dollars that we need as well if it's done right. you know, that's what we can try to do here, is to make sure that it's a balanced development that makes sense, that has public benefit. And, you know, if there's something else somebody thinks of, I think we can throw it in there. But otherwise, that's my motion.
So there is a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Here's a second. I have a second for that. I will second Councilman Bruce's comments. Councilman Bruce, can I ask you a specific question? The additional comments you made regarding conditions, were those outlined in the Planning Commission notes?
And the consultant notes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So, yes, I could support the motion based on the fact that those conditions are part of the Planning Commission as well as the planning consultant's comments in regards to this particular project. I also want to state that the project is consistent with the goals and objectives and policy of the master plan and applicable provision of the plan unit development options, section 34-320 of the zoning ordinance, specifically sections I, B, and BI, and B2, subject to the following findings and conditions. So I would support the motion based on that. And again, I'm confident that the proponent, it will work with Marvelous Marvins to ensure that they are given a fair opportunity to be part of this project. They have had that communication with them, and the city has also reached out to Marvelous Marvin on numerous occasions to offer them resources and information in order to maintain their tenancy there. But again, the city has no authority to dictate to the proponent as to what particular tenant can go there. It's all based on what the zoning is allowed there as well. So I would support the motion, Councilman Bruce. Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, one of the things that council usually includes as part of the motion is indication for the city attorney to prepare the PUD agreement. Yep. And that language is provided in the city manager report. I just ask if the maker of the motion be willing to include that as council usually does.
You know, I thought I said that, but
maybe I missed it. If I did, I apologize.
I would support that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Other discussion? Anyone? Mr. Aldred.
Let me start off. I appreciate the motion you've made there, and I agree with you. Those items would be benefits. My concern is that there's still not enough benefit here in terms of the community benefit for this development, so I'm curious to hear other people's comments on this. My main sticking point is primarily actually the drive-through. I don't feel that that's a great addition. I think it's using up a lot of space in this development. I appreciate seeing the additional renderings that we hadn't seen before. That was helpful to see those spaces on those outlot buildings are looking, that's moving in the right direction. But the use of that space for a drive-through, we've got a McDonald's right next door. I feel like we can do better, and so I feel like we should be looking to prescribe what's going to give maximum benefit for this development. Even though I believe, as Dr. Bruce said, this is a needed development in this area. So that would be my comment. My main sticking point is on the drive-through.
Yep. Other members?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll go. I have to agree with Councilman Allred. I am concerned about the drive-through aspect of this particular project. I think that we don't need another drive-through restaurant here in Farmington Hills. We need other sit-down types of establishment. I'm also concerned about the appearance of whatever store goes into that proposed Myers location. You know, it looks right now with all the signage on the front, it does not give a good, it's not appealing to me. And I think, as our mayor had said earlier, this is like the gateway to our community into Farmington Hills. So I would like to see some additional thought put into the facade of that particular building, along with eliminating the drive-through aspect of this particular project.
No?
Appreciate the motion with the additions that Dr. Bruce added. I certainly support his additions, such as bicycle parking, bus stop, and so forth, but I'm also going to agree with my fellow council members on this side that I have concerns with the drive-through as it's proposed. And it's not even that I'm opposed to a drive-through. I don't want a fast food restaurant. We already have McDonald's there. I don't want another fast food restaurant. So for me, one of the conditions, and we have done this before, but we, for another PUD in the past, is we have put in a condition where the restaurant can't have any sort of fryers, because that eliminates the ability of a fast food drive-through to go in. You could maybe then have like a Big B coffee, and they would have a drive-through. You don't get as much traffic with a Big B coffee. I don't know, I'm just mentioning Big B because it came to my mind, but I'm not saying they would want the space or anything like that. I don't know anything about that, but I just don't want fast food restaurant there. So I would have to have that type of condition in it. And my other big concern, the Myers is the first thing you see, even when you look at the renderings, when you're coming south on Orchard Lake and you go through the roundabout. I mean, really, that is the first thing out of the corner of your eye on the right-hand side that you see. I need to have a different look there. I know I can't prevent Myers from going in there, but I don't like the 5 signs. That was one of the things that they requested, is 5 as opposed to 2 signs on that building. Can't support that. I think it's gonna look cluttered. I just don't feel that with the 5 signs, it looks like it's a quality, eye-catching, this is a statement when we come into Farmington Hills. So I think that building has to be rethought for me. And then the other thing is, and this is probably more a question, is there was, one of the requests was for a grandfathering of non-conforming signs. I'd like to know what signs those are. I don't know if that's a condition I would approve, but I'm not sure what signs they're talking about. That hasn't come up yet tonight. Oh, thank you. Do you know which signs they're referring to?
I do, if you're ready for the answer to that.
Yeah.
So in our discussions regarding the existing complex and what was there was some creative thoughts about the possibility that Marvelous Marvin's remaining either in their location or nearby would want to utilize the signage that they currently have, which is very iconic to their space. That's not something that would be allowed through the current codes.
Oh, I see, okay.
But with this phrasing.
If it's for Marvelous Marvin's, I'm fine with it,
It
because
made-
that is a classic and iconic sign. I didn't know if they were talking about a monument sign out on Orchard Lake that was no longer allowed in the ordinance or not. But if it's,
That's where
if
the
it's only
comment
for
came from.
Marvelous Marvin's, I'm okay with it because of that historical, iconic look. But the other signs, I wouldn't want it for any of the other signs out for the strip mall. They need to meet our ordinance.
That sign, the Mechanical Museum, they have a zoning variance for that sign that they got in 1995. So that runs with the land, so.
But if you take it down, you can lose
Right,
your
if you take it down.
nonconformity. So if they were to relocate or renovate to the point where they needed to take it down in order to build, that would
with the
lose the
variance?
nonconformity through that variance.
Even with the variance, wouldn't the variance run with the land, no matter what?
If I may, Madam Mayor?
Please.
Well, typically, yes, a variance does run with the land, but once you discontinue the use for any period of time, you could lose that. There may be an argument that it has been abandoned because there's an intent to continue it, but this condition would clarify any question and erase any question that they could continue with that sign.
Okay.
Okay.
That's where the thought came from originally.
Okay, well, I would just want to clarify that the only non-conforming sign that we still allow would be for Marvin's, not for anything else on the strip mall. If anything else is non-conforming, it needs to come up to code.
Right.
And then the other thing is, on the grocery store, really need to understand the hours of the grocery store. I do not want a 24/7. I know it was stated that that's not what they're planning, but we don't know. I think something needs to be in there to prevent 24/7.
Thank you. You had another, you wanted to amend your motion, and then I
Yeah.
still have comments.
Okay, I think I'd like to amend my motion to eliminate the drive-through as part of the motion. So no restaurant drive-through as proposed currently, you know, but the Meijer itself, they can go in there no matter what, you know, so if they decide not to pursue this PUD and they go with current zoning, they could put the Meijer in there, so.
Just a point of clarification.
Yes.
Is the drive-through just on the outlot?
Yeah, just on the restaurant, proposed restaurant, not the Meijer.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because a lot of seniors use drive-through pharmacies. And, you know, I think that's a great idea, especially where it's located. I'm sorry, Mayor. Yep.
Madam Mayor, thank you. With regard to elimination of the drive-through, I understand the earlier comment about conditioning it on a certain type of use, which I think is acceptable at this juncture, but on the site plan, it does identify the physical attributes of a drive-through and how the traffic would flow and so on and so forth. I think that's a fairly significant amendment to the plan. Now, I know that there's still discussion up here, so I don't want to interrupt that flow, but when the discussion is done, I'd recommend offering the developer an opportunity to come up and address that issue and anything else, to see if, for example, if that is something that they can and are willing to adjust on the plan in terms of the drive-through. But again, I don't want to disrupt the flow here of City Council as it goes through this.
Okay.
Too much.
Mr. Bridges or Mr. Dwyer, any other comments before I chip in? Okay, so I will not be voting in favor of this motion for a number of reasons. I feel that it was helpful to have the walkthrough of the rendering from the architect, but that's not a contract. And so I would need to see specifics. I would need to see more detail on the materials to be used. I would need to see more details on the signage. As Ms. Knoll said, I would like to see some details about hours of operation because we have people living right next to it. I don't have a problem with the veterinary hospital. We have a lot of people who love their animals, and that would be a nice thing to have there. I don't even have a problem with the drive-through, although I love the amendment about no fryers. And so I just cannot support this because in my eyes, we don't know what public art would be provided by the applicant. We don't know where that would be. I mean, there's art and there's art, right? I mean, they could throw up anything and it would be art. Who would approve what art would be? So I would need to see more specificity before I would be able to vote favorably on anything, frankly. So anything else? So Mr. Attorney, were you suggesting that before we vote, we hear back from the applicant?
Yes, at least in terms of the part of, and also I think the motion should be restated because there have been several amendments, by the way, procedurally before there is a vote. But perhaps even before that, have an opportunity for the developer to at least address the drive-through, removing the drive-through from the site plan.
Please, come on back.
So, thank you, guys. I think as far as the conditions on the drive-through, I think we're more aligned than what we initially were presenting. The intent here is for the drive-through for this to be an end cap restaurant. The drive-through would be a secondary secondary use. So this is not a fast food. This is not a Chick-fil-A. That's not the idea here. It is truly to have the option for a pickup window or more flexibility for different kinds of QSRs or more, different kind of concepts that are coming to the market, but it's not intended to be an active drive-through restaurant, traditionally what you're thinking of as a Chick-fil-A or a Sonic. So with regard to kind of some of the limitations that you guys are talking about, I think those would be, those would absolutely be acceptable. I also wanted to add, as far as the operations for the Meijer, the intent is 6 a.m. to midnight would be their operating hours. That's what they are, that's their current program. And then as far as some of the other uses that are in conversation with the leasing team to fill out some of those, there are active conversations with some of the kind of sit-down dining establishments that you guys are talking about. With the burger joint that you guys mentioned, we're in conversations with them as a relocation, as well as some other higher-end restaurant concepts. Again, none of these are executed leases because obviously we don't have an approved plan, and those are shorter-term deals than some of the larger boxes. But I did want to clarify some of those items that were raised earlier, and hopefully kind of set the record straight in terms of some of those issues and concerns.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. City Manager.
If I may.
Yes, please.
So, just trying to give a little bit of assistance here, as the discussion has gone through this evening. It seems like we made a lot of headway, and it seems like there's a lot of concern about building materials, public art, how much public art, where is it going to go, what are the types of what are the types of building materials. Landscaping. There's some other things that we discussed with the developer at our November 27th meeting. I forwarded you all a copy of that. More non-motorized access to that center, with potentially opening up some pedestrian access, nice pedestrian access to the apartment complexes to the west. So having said that, I'm just wondering if the developer may be open to us taking a breath and maybe postponing until February or March so that we can discuss and flesh out some of these issues between staff and the developer, and then come back and really have a good rock-solid plan that hopefully addresses almost all of council's concerns.
Great idea.
So is there a wish to withdraw the motion on the table? Is that what?
Could I make a motion to table?
Well, you would make a motion to postpone to a date certain, which you'd pick the meeting, and I think the idea of the city manager is to ask the developer whether that is acceptable with them, to come back, and so that we can have a very clear motion before council with some details and amended plans to reflect these sorts of things, to make sure they're meeting the needs of city council. So the motion, if that's acceptable at this juncture, that's always beneficial to know that we're all on the same page with that. Council obviously can postpone in its own discretion, but oftentimes it does ask the developer if that's acceptable, and the time frame that council is suggesting by that motion is also usually something we extend to the developer to make sure that it's flowing properly for them. So if, Madam Mayor, if that's acceptable.
So is that acceptable to you?
That is, we'd prefer February to March, but yes.
Okay. We have 2 meetings in February.
2 meetings back to back.
Right. So we have the one on the, what is it, the 5th?
Yeah. The 5th or the 12th. Yep.
Yeah, the 5th might be too early. We want to be able to accommodate what you need us to do. So the 12th, Monday the 12th?
That works.
Okay. All right, so, please.
Madam Mayor, I would move motion to table to the date of February 12th, 2024, on the consideration of the partial redevelopment of 100 Square Shopping Center, PUD Plan 2, 2023, including Site Plan 67-9-2023. Is that an acceptable motion?
Support that motion.
Moved by Dr. Bruce, supported by Mr. Bridges. Yes.
I'm not going to support that motion unless it's March.
towards the middle of March, no later, no sooner, I should say. I'm not going to support the poll.
Okay, then any other, can you help us understand?
I think there's no discussion on a motion to table.
Okay, thank you. So there's no discussion on a motion to table. So let me call the question. Is it a roll call, Ms. Clerk, or is it a regular vote? Okay, it's a regular vote. All those in favor of tabling this, what is it called? The consideration until our February 12 meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Thank you. So motion is tabled until February 12th. We look forward to seeing you back on February 12th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just
Yes,
for
sir.
the public's knowledge, there will
Yes.
not be there will not be another public hearing on this, so it won't be noticed as such, but it will be posted on the city's website in the usual fashion for our meetings.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
and there's always public comment in
Always.
city council meetings.
There, public comment with the
Yes.
blue slips as always, of course.
There's still public comment.
Yes.
It's just in a different section of the meeting.
Exactly. And with that, we are going to item 8. New business, consideration of appointments to various boards and commissions. And Ms. PG, you had a comment.
Maybe.
I'll see this later, that's March. I think he's forgetting his flash drive. The guy.
Number 9. Number 9.
Yeah, we're going to new business.
Where's Pam up there?
I'm sorry. She put in a blue card on wanting to talk on boards and commission consideration.
Okay.
You guys ought to build around Mark.
During public comment unless it's a public hearing.
No, no, any item that is on the agenda, you have to fill out a blue card. So they told me no.
We're on number 8. We're on agenda 8. right?
Agenda 8, yes. Okay, so go ahead.
Forgot
please.
his flash drive in the.
Okay, that's all right.
Number 8, the city is always talking about residents getting involved in the process to serve on boards and commissions. And I think about 2 years ago, one of the council members approached and said that I should think about signing up for a couple of the boards and commissions. And I did. I signed up for 3 of them. And for almost half a year, I didn't get any phone calls from the city of Farmington Hills. I got approved to a board, and I'm grateful for the approval, but it's a board that meets on a case-by-case basis. That's not real involvement to me. But what I was really disappointed about was the boards that I was very interested in getting on, the Planning Commission and the Brownfield, which I am very knowledgeable about both of those areas. The city allowed those positions to go unfulfilled for a year. And it just seems to me like the people, and I know these people are appointed by the mayor, but it seems like the people are appointed based on some sort of perception of the friends and family hookup. So I'm just hoping, and I'd like to appeal to all of you not to allow people to use these boards and commission as a stepping stone to necessarily run for office, that you should get people that can be committed, that can show up, and that's available. You know, it's one thing to be a member of 5 or 6 different boards and commissions, but if you don't have the time to be involved and to do the process and do what it takes to be on that board and commission, you should consider involving other residents that are not necessarily motivated to be on city council or to run for some sort of elected position. So that's all I had to say about that, to maybe consider the applications that you have already on file as opposed to giving the public the perception of the friends and family hookup, or rewarding someone for not winning a particular race that they ran. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And so then that takes us to recommendations for appointment, which is our item 8 for various boards and commissions, and there are a lot of them. So who still has breath left tonight to make the motion?
Valerie?
You gotta pull it up.
Okay.
Hold on. Someone else has it. I don't
I
have
have it
it
right
in front
here.
of me.
I have it right here.
Did you take it?
I'll take it.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you,
Valerie.
Mr. Mayor
Swear
Pro
on the
Tem.
draw.
And by the way, okay, and just for the record, 5 of these people are people who applied previously and I have never met. I've just talked to them on the phone.
It's your prerogative, Mayor.
Thank you.
First, the mayor has made the following recommendations for appointment. Master Plan Steering Committee, Mayor Teresa Rich and Randy Bruce. Council liaisons for boards and commissions are as follows. Mayor Teresa Rich for Board of Review, Grand River Corridor Authority, Mayor of Youth Council. Mayor Pro Tem Michael Bridges, Farmington Area Commission on Aging, Economic Development Corporation. Council Member Valerie Knoll, Beautification Commission, Historical District Commission. One other, right? Are you also on the Master Plan?
And she is on the Master Planning Task Force.
All right, Master Plan Task Force as well. Councilmember Jackie Boulware, Brownfield Development Authority, Commission on Community Health Committee, Commission on Community Health Committee to increase voter participation, and the Farmington Area Arts Commission. Councilmember William Dwyer, Commission on Children, Youth and Family Retirement Board, and the Retirement Board. Councilmember John Allred, Emergency Preparedness Commission, and the Parks and Recreation Commission. For the committee to increase voter participation, we have Catherine Brown, length of term is 3 years, term expiring February 2027. We have Adam Harrell, also on that same commission, 3 years, term expiring 2027. And also Thomas Engel, term expiring 3 years, expires on February 2027. For the Beautification Commission, we have Dr. Robert Levine, 3-year term ending February 2027. For the Grand River Corridor Improvement Authority, we have Jerry Price. Length of term is 4 years, term ending February 1st, 2028. For the Zoning Board of Appeals, we have Lloyd Banks, unexpired term ending February 1st, 2026. And lastly, we have Vivek Das, 3-year term ending February 1st, 2027. And one more, I can't pronounce his name, Akramuddin Khan, 3-year term ending February 1st, 2027. These are the appointments that the mayor has asked council for consideration.
Support.
Okay, thank you.
And just a comment, if I may, Adam Harrell was here earlier this evening. He sat in part of the study session and part of council meeting. So you did get a chance to meet him.
Okay.
Okay. This is a regular vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Passes. And so then that takes us to the attorney report.
Everybody, I've provided my attorney report to everybody, and
Thank you.
anytime you would have any questions, you can feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you. There being no further business to come before us, I'm seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, no discussion on a motion to adjourn. Good night, Farmington Hills. We are adjourned.